Hey, everybody on YouTube. I think we got the sound sorted out, and you can actually see me talking with my voice actually matching up. How you doing? Dave Scott here, Spaced Out Radio. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us tonight. I really do appreciate it. It is a special edition of Ghosts of the Great White North tonight because not only do we have Merle here, oh yeah, because you know how much we love our Merle time, but we have Canadian fiddler Ashley MacIsaac, who is literally one of the best in the world when it comes to everything musical. And I tell you, I am so stoked to have him here. He's got some wicked ghost stories, man. And we're going to get into those tonight. I want to give a shout out to everybody who is here so far tonight. We got Long Island Bigfoot. Good to see you. Asteroid, thanks for coming back. Thurston Howell the Third. Where's Lovey? Yes, where's Lovey? Hey, Knucker, how you doing, man? Cat Chaser, good to see you. Princess Denali, thank you for coming on in. You know, we can't start a show without Brett Lewis here, and there he is in the chat room. Little Mikey Morin, otherwise known as Merle, he's in there. The Jim Christie, everyone. Make sure you give him a round of applause. All right, we have the Ad Gnome. He's here. Bee's Nest. Cable Guy Matt, remember, you can get your free piece of coaxial cable courtesy of Cable Guy Matt. Limit 1 per household. It is autographed. You cannot buy these in stores, people. We have Block Chick. Yes, my mouth is lining up. Look at that, eh? Look at that. Nilbog, good to have you here. Sweet Donnie C, thanks for coming on in. Hey, Larry. Hi, Renee. Big Rob. Jenny, good to see you. Filth. Dirty Filth, the artist of Spaced Out Radio. There he is, Ghost 66. The gorgeous and talented Steph Dickey's here, everyone. Who else do we have? Justin, Cashew, Farmer Robert, thanks for coming on in. Kimberly, good to have you here. I did message you back on Instagram. Thank you for joining us. And we're going to have a good time. Merle, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. Looking forward to the show. Looking forward to Ghost Talks. Haven't been looking forward to this day, actually.
Me too. You can tell you're filled with excitement tonight, Merle. Filled with
Always.
excitement. Fapster, how you doing? How's Grandma Rose? Pharmacy, good to see you. Northern UFOs, thanks for coming on in. We appreciate that. Mr. Ashley MacIsaac, I'm going to tell you right now, you're one of the most talented people we've ever had on this show. How you doing, my friend?
Well, it's very nice to be part of your show, to all your YouTube listeners, and then, of course, everybody that listens out in Radio Land and syndication, that sort of thing. I would say that all I needed to hear from your list was somebody named Thurston, because I want to know what a Thurston would ask.
I know. You know what? I totally know. Hi, Barther and the Third Nipple crew. Good to have you here. Oob to Joe's Maine. Your hair looks fantastic, and you've got aliens. Hey, Tammy. Good to have you here. All right, Lord of Land, thanks for coming on in. I'm excited about this. We have literally about 2 minutes before we're going to launch this thing live, and everything seems to be working. We seem to be working here, and I'm pretty proud of this. I'm pretty proud. We've worked pretty damn hard to get the studio back up. Thank you to Barther L. and the Third Nipple crew for helping me out this afternoon and giving me some guidance on getting everything going and helping get our audio cleaned up. Barther, you are a hero of the night. I bow to you, sir. Bow. Yes. Gnome Squatch, good to see you. Bama, thanks for coming on in. Nicole Sakic, the lovely and talented Nicole, there she is. Hi, Sandra. Bombshell Bomber, you're looking beautiful tonight. She's from Halifax, too. The Bombshell.
You know who else is great this up? There's a great person on this show. It's Dave Scott.
Oh, you're way too kind. You know, just because I begged for an autograph earlier, you know. All right. Here we go.
Merle, are you from British Columbia?
Yeah, I'm born and raised Surrey.
Beautiful part of our great country.
Indeed.
Home, I believe, of the first Indo-Canadian announced NHL game, was it not, Surrey?
It was.
It sure was. Is.
Those guys do a great job, too. Man, are they good. They are really good.
Yeah. Great hosts. I don't understand the language, but you understand the excitement when they're hosting the show.
Oh, you totally get that. They are fantastic. Fantastic. Okay, guys, hold on 10 seconds. Thank you to everybody who's joining us on YouTube tonight. Do not forget that we do have the Super Chat open. Here we go with our music. We got 30 seconds, actually. But we're going to be good. Super Chat is open. Great way to support this show is do a little shopping on our website, the SOR Vault. Grab yourself a t-shirt or something like that. Join the Space Travelers for $5 a month. And don't forget, hit that subscribe button. Hit that thumbs up, that little bell thingy. Hey, Mooney, how you doing? Corn's the booking guy. Good to see you, man. Rich Hilke, thanks for coming on in. And I know Timber Hunter's in here as well. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates across North America and digitally on TalkStream Live and Revolution Radio. If you want to take a listen to our archives, they are free for you at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Tonight we have a special edition of Ghosts of the Great White North, as my normal sidekick, Merle from Paranormal Road Trippers, is back for another round of Ghost Talk. But tonight we have a special guest to share some stories with you. He's an award-winning musician from Nova Scotia. His music has been heard all around the world, as Ashley MacIsaac is deemed one of the best fiddlers on this planet. He has 14 albums to his credit, but he has plenty of strange stories that will fit right in with us here at SOR. Then at the bottom of hour number 3, I will bring you the SOR Newswire, brought to you by Paranoia Magazine. Merle, how you doing, buddy?
Doing fantastic. Can't wait for tonight's show. I actually have an Ashley MacIsaac story to tell. When you're ready.
Well, you know what? Before we introduce Ashley, why don't you tell us?
All right. So this guy's music, Ashley, is phenomenal. And I'm not just saying that because he's on the show. There's a song of his that I have 3 memories of. It's called Devil in the Kitchen. Back in my youth, I used to play in a band. And we used to play around Vancouver, where I'm from, and in the Fraser Valley in the lower mainland of that area. And we used to play metal and rock. And this song, Devil in the Kitchen, I would need quiet time before I would go on stage and play, because that song I would use to pump me up to play, every time we had a show. So it's pretty cool to talk to the guy who plays that song. And second, when I lived in the UK, I introduced Ashley's music to the people I lived with, and they couldn't process how good his fiddle playing was. So here we are today.
Ashley, what do you think of this fangirling right off the bat here by Merle?
Hey, radio listeners out there in the terrestrial land, and hi, Merle. That's an awful kind thing to say about somebody. If you're a musician that was touring and playing heavy metal music, you know how to play hard music. And it's thrilled to be on the show with you, and I'm happy you've enjoyed some of my music over the years. Dave, it's a great pleasure to be here with you tonight. I've never spent this long on any radio program. The longest I've ever been on even a YouTube live thing, I would say, was maybe 45 minutes over my career. So I chose, when you asked me to be part of this, in my mind, this is a special occasion, because talking about ghosts isn't something that I do publicly, just like I haven't talked about UFOs, those sort of experiences in the past, only on stage and telling people as part of my shows, but to sit and do an interview about my own personal experiences, about the paranormal, the scary, the things that right now are probably going even more bump in the night during the pandemic. It's a great pleasure to be on your program.
Oh, what a pleasure it is for you to do that for us as well. And, you know, we should tell people how you and I hooked up, because a few weeks ago, you posted a picture, I believe, that your cousin took at one of your concerts, which looked to be a UFO over your stage, way in the background. And you posted this on a Facebook page called UFOs Over Canada. And I tell you, I had to do a double take because I recognized your name right away. And I was like, I wonder if this is the musician. And lo and behold, you messaged me back. You're like, yeah, that's me. That was on stage. And I was like, holy crap, here we go. This is going to be fun. Because I think people who are famous, whether it's actors, actresses, musicians like yourself, when it comes to these type of topics, there's a reservation that comes along with that, Ashley. Why is it that you have that reservation to talk about this kind of subject?
I think the reservation and a stereotype for people who are in the public eye would probably be something that's changing when you see things about UFO releases through the Blink 182 guy, I think it was his name. There's a celebrity, and there's a TV show that's on now that's called Celebrity Ghost Stories. So it may have changed because it's, you know, such a wide range of programming and such in the world for content with digital, you know, channels and such. So that's probably changed, but the stereotype of where it comes from has to do with, you know, there's still a feeling out there that for some reason things like ghosts, because maybe we don't have enough scientific studies that can prove them, that don't have footage in front of them at the time of a scientist who would give their deliberations. Maybe that's why sometimes artists feel that the general public might still think they're a little bit cuckoo if they talk about that stuff. Now, we know all kinds of famous actresses and actors that have had experiences and talked about them, but the freedom that was there this year in particular, with people being at home and going online, maybe that's allowed me to feel comfortable to talk about stuff and put it in that type of experience, because I really never have done much online stuff before. Like I say, I've talked about stuff in my shows. If you've come out, I've done thousands of shows. People have heard some of my stories. The reason probably people don't hear it in the mainstream is because the mainstream just doesn't want to accept it entirely, that there are things that go bump in the night.
Do you think it's about what producers say, what agents say? Because when you go and discuss with the media, you're more a free-flowing guy, okay, where you've always been able to be someone who speaks on your mind, what's on your mind and what you want to say. But there's a lot of holdback for a lot of entertainers out there where they can't talk about things like politics or their views on anything that might offend the public, or even going as far as to talk about ghosts or UFOs or anything like that, for fear that somebody may take that a wrong way, especially a sponsor or maybe a tour booking company or something along those lines, where you could get yourself into trouble and all of a sudden you're not on the bill, Ashley.
Yeah, I think that obviously would have some reasoning that's logical. There's, you know, just as, like I say, there's as many programs now that people can listen to and be part of, like a Celebrity Ghost Stories or these ghost chasing television shows. There's all kinds of, one would say, I guess, straight venues, you know, things that are of the mainstream. And I can say that I actually directly myself contacted national papers in Canada at different times when I decided I was going to talk about experiences with unidentified flying objects, and give them full-on stories and send some pictures and send some reasons that I thought were worthy enough to maybe even make an entertainment news section, some sort of fun story if they wanted to do it that way, but never got a bite. And I think it's just the mainstream still is in a different category than the more paranormal field of even entertainment, you know. So when it comes to hard news about things or people talking about it directly, you don't want to bite. So, of course, agents and stuff would think that. I never really had much of that problem because I never, you know, I'd like to say, I've said what I've said. I haven't had much reason to talk about things, but with no gigs since a long time now, since March during this pandemic, I thought, all right, if I'm going to sit around and talk about stuff online, I might as well talk about stuff that I find interesting.
Yeah, no kidding. Merle, why don't you throw a few words out there?
No, I agree with what Ashley's saying. I don't think the mainstream is into wanting to listen to the paranormal. I've said that before. I think in Canada, people still find it a little too kooky to speak about openly. I know in the States it's a lot different. As the paranormal talk is a lot more in the open. This past week, I was doing a ghost hunt at a location, and we actually had a celebrity with us. Her name, if you've seen the show The 100, her name's Chelsea Reist. She came out and investigated with my team, and she was totally open to talking about all of her stories that she's experienced while filming and in her childhood. But yeah, now with this pandemic going on, it's a perfect time to talk about these type of things, especially if you're interested in them.
Ashley, why do you believe in the paranormal?
Well, I know what normal is. I get up in the morning, I brush my teeth, I have some breakfast, and some days in the last 30 years I'm on a plane or I'm in the town already, and I go out and I do my job. You know, that's normal. The paranormal, that term, I think, you know, the way I see it, I've always liked those television shows, Twilight Zone and such, so it encompasses a lot of things altogether for me, that word. I gotta say, none of those reasons are the reasons to be interested, even 1/centillionth of what you decide in your life is interesting when you experience it yourself.
That is very true. So if you want, let's kick this off. Ashley, as we got about 10 minutes here before we got to go to break at the bottom of the hour, so we have lots of time. What's your first paranormal experience that you recall?
The first one that I recall is actually probably one of the most extraordinary in my life, and I've told it on my Facebook, and I've told it at shows at the end of a show. It's a Christmas story. Oddly enough, it's a story about a young person, me, living in a rural area of eastern Canada, out in Cape Breton, 14 years old, and raised a Catholic, and having had at that point maybe a couple of years by 1989 of some mainstream media about things like Rock Hudson's death and some negative stuff about people that were gay that had to do with the new pandemic of that era, which was HIV. And having had those deep thoughts and thought myself that I might be a gay person, I wondered, you know, a lot about how people who were Christian, that had feelings that were not necessarily uncommon amongst everybody about living a good, solid, you know, traditional life, could have such deep-seated hatred in some of their comments in the world about people that were gay. So I was thinking a lot about that deepness. And being a Catholic, I went to church a lot, went to confession, and was having deep conversations with my priest. Occasionally I would go over there because he was a fiddle player whom had all, you know, the local fiddlers come rehearse in his house. I knew him well, and a couple of times I stayed afterwards to talk about, you know, deep thoughts about theology and why people believe certain things. And obviously in the Catholic Church, gay wasn't a concept that was considered viable whatsoever. So, you know, there was a deep... I had a priest who was pre-Vatican II, and so I had these very deep conversations. So throughout that process, I was thinking a lot. And one Christmas Eve in 1989, I went to do a show. I played a show in this local Knights of Columbus Hall, and, you know, it was a great event. We left there. It was a very, very, very windy event. And as we drove through this windstorm of snow, blinding snow on a Christmas Eve, myself and my dad were on our way home, and we were, of course, going to go to Christmas Eve Mass. And we came to this town, this community called Inverness in Cape Breton. And now Inverness is today a very well-known community, not just in Cape Breton, but around the world because of its famous golf courses. So it's a very picturesque, scenic area with dunes and now beautiful golf courses and just a great, quaint village. As we came through that village, came down a long hill, came down around a turn by a gentleman's house, greenhouse, guy named Little Willie. He was a piano player I knew. We came to the straightaway, and lo and behold, not too far ahead of us, in the middle of the road, was something. So here we are driving at around 50 kilometers an hour, leaving this small village. As we come down this hill, me and my dad, blinding, circling snow, the bright lights on, no other cars on the road. It's a certain time of evening on Christmas Eve. Nobody had left their houses yet. Fresh powder, beautiful, beautiful winter's night, and dead center in the middle of the road, probably 100 feet we could see with the brights at the most, was this figure. And as we slowed the car down to the point where we were probably no more than 25 to 35 feet away from this figure. And we were stopped dead in the middle of the road. And I looked at my dad, and he looked at me, and I said, "Dad, what is that?" And he said, "I don't know, Ashley." And he grabbed me with his right hand onto my left knee. And he said, "Close your eyes and say a prayer." Now, my father is he's now 83 years old. He's not as tough as he was, but he's still tough mentally. He's a strong guy. He didn't get scared of nothing that I ever seen. But he had told me stories of experiences he had had when he was young of ghosts and such. And here we are in the middle of the road, stopped with this figure, which now he's grabbing me by the knee and telling me to say a prayer. I thought to myself, and, CRTC, sorry, but I'll say JC, like, holy JC, what am I seeing? And I knew what I was seeing. I was seeing a ghost. I said, "I'm not closing my eyes." He said, "Close your eyes." So I closed my eyes quickly. We've been all of 15 seconds to 20 seconds stopped now in the middle of the road. And I opened my eyes, and it was gone. I said, "Dad, it's gone." And he opened his eyes and pulled across the center of the road, from the center of the road to the side, got out of the car, walked around the front to look to see if there was anybody in the ditch, if there was a car accident. He didn't know what could have happened that made us see this thing. Get back in the car. We drove ahead about 10 miles and continued then down the road until I asked him, "Dad, what did we see?" And he had a couple of things to say to me. But if I was to describe to you what we saw that night, it wasn't something that is anything but supernatural.
That is amazing. What exactly did that creature look like? Or ghost?
The ghost, as we, see ghosts, or we assume ghosts sort of look like, on television, sometimes you see people portraying them as like wisps and that sort of thing. This looked like a full-on person, solid. And he was from the bottom, looking out the windshield of the car to the front of him, seeing what we could see. I didn't notice first down to the ground because, I'm just staring straight at it. And I realized it was about a foot off the ground when I looked a little harder. So at first glance, what you see is a figure that's 8 feet off the ground. So the person or the ghost was really, if it was a foot hovering off the ground, was almost 7 feet tall. Now that included the top hat it was wearing. So it had a large top hat. It had a long cape, like you would have covered over a suit. It had the type of dark grayish suit with buttons on it, and a dark cape all the way down to the long legs, and a chin-strap beard along its square-jawed face, and a regular nose, but what it didn't have was eyes. Where its eyes should have been were 2 blocks of obviously like solid plywood wood. So you got this top hat, you got a face with the chin strap, 2 squares of wood where the eyes should be, and the long cape, and hovering there in front of us. Now, eventually, I saw a picture of Uncle Sam when I was about 16. I came home in front of my piano that was there, the I want you to practice poster, and it made me think of that person. And I eventually came to conclude, looking at this character, and this might sound crazy, but I think it was Abraham Lincoln. That's what it seemed like. So if it wasn't Abraham Lincoln, it looked like an Abraham Lincoln type character from that era, and it was hovering, and it was there. And when I closed my eyes and opened my eyes, after the 20 to 30 seconds total that we were stopped in the middle of the road staring at this in front of our car, it had disappeared. It was a ghost.
So literally you guys drove up on this and basically hit the brakes because this thing wasn't moving.
No, we were only doing 40 to 50 kilometers an hour at the most, coming around this turn from the bottom of a hill out of Inverness, starting on the straightaway, just a snowy night, so coming up from probably 20 or 30 kilometers slow around the turn, we'd be doing 30 or 40. So by the time we could see it, the slowdown only took like 5-10 seconds, and then we're stopped, and it's close enough in front of us that I'm seeing an actual apparition that's solid, that's like a human, that's floating, that has all the characteristics of a normal person from the 19th century, but it had no eyes. It looked like, I figure, they were in place there from some type of, covering of whatever the space should have been there.
That's incredible.
Did it try and communicate with you? Do you remember?
No, we were inside a car, and it was, probably still 30 to 40, 25 to 35, whatever it was, not far away, in front of us. And just looking at it, it communicated all right. I started the story talking about being young and gay at the time and wondering about life. And when we drove away, I no longer questioned what I believed about life and what I thought was right. And I didn't need a priest to tell me, or my father to tell me, or the world to tell me, because I had certain things I was thinking deeply about. And when my dad said, close your eyes, and I knew that I saw a ghost, and I said, what is it? And he said he didn't know. I knew that it was a ghost. So I started to believe what I believed in the world then. And so that communication happened mentally, and I went forward from there and made my choices there forward as an adult. As a 14-year-old, I started down the road of where I ended up eventually in a career. So in one sense, it communicated a freedom to me, but it never said anything verbally. It was standing out in the middle of a snowy road in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the road on Christmas Eve, 1989.
Wow, 30 years ago. 30 years ago. Ashley, you mentioned how it changed your life, and you also mentioned what some people would consider a very touchy subject on whether or not how to come out or to discover your own sexuality. Do you feel that this spirit, this ghost, helped you decide that you were going to ride your own path and that you were going to be the best person that you could be? I mean, this was quite the spiritual awakening as we got about a minute left.
100%. It was we drove home, and what my dad said to me on the side of the road was, when I asked him, what was this? We stopped. He said, look, Ash, I'm going to tell you three things. First, we're going home to Christmas Eve Mass, so forget about it. Second, there's a lot of things in life that you can't explain. And third, don't you dare tell your mother. So, the whole experience was wild. We went home, went to church. When I sat at church that night, I was looking at statues on Christmas Eve and thinking, yeah, okay, whatever. I'm a human being on this planet, and I'm alive, and I'm going to think what I want because I just saw something that wasn't alive.
That's incredible. Absolutely incredible. Merle, I think we're in for a good night of stories like this tonight, man.
I think so. It's going to be good.
That's why you're a man of many words. We got Ghosts of the Great White North happening right now on Spaced Out Radio. We got Merle, my resident sidekick from Paranormal Road Trippers. And tonight we have special guest, award-winning musician, Ashley MacIsaac. And Ashley's going to be with us right through the distance until we get to the news. We're going to have a good time here on Spaced Out Radio. Second half hour coming up right after this.
Questions that are about some of my experiences, or talk about your own, and feel free to send any question out to me, be it about music or ghosts or whatever's on your mind.
Yeah. Let me see here. Hold on.
I've been keeping an eye on the chat rooms, Dave, for questions.
I know. I can see. I just got to take a picture.
Merle, do you still play music?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh.
Go ahead, guys.
I'm in the market to get another drum kit. I play drums. But no, I sold my kit a while ago because I needed space. But I'd like to get another kit.
Come on now, tell the truth. For musicians, it's the pandemic. We sold our instruments because we need money.
I hear you. No, I played a long
drumming
time.
Drumming is the hardest thing, man. Drumming is the hardest thing. It's to get a good drummer. If you can find a good drummer in the world, somebody who can keep a real beat, you got the best part of the band right there.
Totally. I learned playing swing and jazz, and then I went to like 50s. And then I had a traditional teacher when I started way back in the day that played in like 50s bands and that. So I learned the old-fashioned using your snare hand, holding your stick kind of sideways. So that was kind of my thing. And then got a little older, discovered 80s metal, and I played a lot of Motley Crue and went into like Metallica, System of a Down. Yep. Yeah, no, I missed it. Yeah. Now my daughter, she wants to play music, so I think it passed the torch on to her.
Same as my little guy. My little guy,
well, that's it.
He's a metalhead.
Music shares, right? Share the music you love with your kids. It's always a way, like I heard a lot of different music from my parents' collection growing up in the era that I was in, and that's what's given me a wide open love of music.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I took music composition heavy in high school and even after high school, like in college. It's a career I wanted, but I just was never to obtain way back in the day.
Never say never.
That's true.
I watch my Ashley. I watch my 7-year-old boy, and he's a metalhead, and he'll run around the house, roar, 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 speaking. And I'm like, son, what are you doing? And he's like, Dad, I'm practicing my metal voice. And I'm like, rock and roll, kid, rock and roll.
There's a young group that made itself well known on Facebook during the pandemic so far. They've been around for a couple of years, and they're from Windsor. And I think it's called The Kids Are All Right or something like that. And they cover like everything from the best Zeppelin solos that nobody else has ever been able to play to like, Christopher Cross. Like they're all over the map, but they're total 80s rock, and they're so good. When you see these kids of that age, I think, oh my God, like I could play the fiddle pretty good at 13, but at 8, no. and you see it's when kids get into it young, that's where you'll see sometimes them just gravitate towards it. And I probably screamed a few songs when I was a kid too. My big one was when I was 6 or 7. I was into Billy Idol singing, like White Wedding. That was it.
See, I wanted to be Buddy Holly. That's who I wanted to be when I was like 10 years old. Or like Richie Valens.
That's badass.
Yeah.
That's badass.
Yeah, that's where all my music.
Could you swoop your hair?
I could probably do a good swoop. Yeah, probably. And then the first rock song I learned to play on the drums when I thought I was pretty good was I was taught how to play Tom Sawyer, of course, a Rush song, right? But after that, I gained some confidence, and that's when I really started to play a lot.
It's I can say that drumming stuff is hard, and playing that sort of stuff. Yeah, you must have loved it.
Yeah.
1 second here, boys.
Dave, which is your new guitar? Is it the one directly behind you?
No, it's hold on. I don't have my new guitar up here. I don't have a new guitar. That's Lane's beside me here.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Shiloh one.
The red one behind my head is is mine and the black one. Hold on, guys. I got to go silent here for about 10 seconds, and then we're going to get going here. All right, I want to say thanks to everybody who is giving us a thumbs up and down tonight on YouTube. Remember, Super Chat is open. We really do appreciate the help. And support our website at spacedoutradio.com. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We really do appreciate it. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Tonight we are talking with MERLE. Yes, from the Paranormal Road Trippers, we have MERLE and Ghosts of the Great White North. Our special guest tonight, award-winning musician Ashley MacIsaac. Gentlemen, welcome back to the show.
Good day.
Hey, everybody.
Ashley, I want to go back to the story how I met you. You were posting a photo on UFOs over Canada's in the Facebook group that they have, and you were discussing about what this was above your stage. Take us to that photo. Who took it? Tell us the story.
That photo was taken out. You said earlier that it was a UFO. I think it was 4, and it was taken, I believe it would have been around July 16th or 17th. And what year it was now, I'd have to think back particularly. It was 2016. So in 2016, I went to Prince Edward Island. I was doing a show. Somebody out in the audience was a good friend of my cousin who I was also performing with there. She happened to take 3 shots while I was on stage. And she sent them instantly to my cousin, and when I finished the show, my cousin, who has experienced other things that are very weird too, paranormal in her life, she said, "Hey, take a look at these." And so what it is, it was I believe 4, particularly large, probably ships in a type of formation that had one light on shining. Somebody subsequent to me posting that on this, I'd searched for UFOs on Facebook, and I saw UFO Canada posted on there, and somebody on there did whatever type of photo programming analysis from the picture. I sent it to them directly. I myself don't know anything about, photography or anything like that, but they analyzed it, and they said, yeah, it's actually 4 specific things in front of the clouds as it's sitting there, as it looks. And when I was young, I had experiences where I've seen them in that type of light in formation in the dusk before it was light, or before it was dark, with, maybe 10 or 15 other community members that a lot of us had gathered and watched them over our ball field and the beach below there. So I knew what it was in the picture that I saw, and I also see one really up close. If you go onto my Facebook, I put a story on there about my first experience with that, which was, before any ghost experiences when I was a little kid, something that happened with a one-off right there in front of us with a lot of people around UFO. So the picture is something I sent it to you. You can post it and show people. That I think was 4 ships that just showed up that night when I was playing, and it's right across from where I was from in Cape Breton Island, right across the water in Prince Edward Island. It's a small community, it's Rollo Bay. And, take what you want from it. I didn't see it because I was on stage performing, but could have been. And it looks like it. And the person who sent the picture and took the picture, I 100% trust them. That's all I can say about it, I guess.
I got to ask you, what's it like to have aliens as fans?
The reason I agreed to your show is I did another program when I signed on to that Facebook thing, and somebody who runs an online program asked me if I'd talk about my UFO experiences, and I discussed it. And one of the questions he asked was whether or not it's ever affected my musical life. It really hasn't. It's never dawned on me to think about that side of experience, to put it into my feelings. I play traditional music, and my traditional music, I go into some pretty deep, thoughtful feelings of my own, what I think is love, or I think is fear, or I think is sadness, or whatever I'm trying to present emotionally with my fiddle, because fiddle isn't words, and typically I don't perform or record words. I play notes, and I have to use an emotion to evoke into that note what it is I want. So I've never thought of alien when I played, I don't think. And as an adult, I went out on the road. I did lots of magic mushrooms. I did LSD. I smoked marijuana. I did all kinds of things playing with crazy rock bands. And even then, alien thoughts never come into my head, like as far as how to make music. So it really hasn't had an effect. I can't say that about ghosts. When as a kid, I learned to play. I played a lot of funerals, probably played 100 funerals by the time I was 13 or 14. It was a thing to do as a local young traditional musician for people who love the music. And you learn about emotions there, and you learn about sadness, and you learn about death, and what to express to bring out some type of melancholy from people. And because it's part of my tradition, and I've been raised with it, even though I'm in this modern world now of pop culture and Ashley MacIsaac, Devil in the Kitchen, I think about the history behind my music and the culture where it comes from, and the people who might have played it at a square dance, the same music I play 50 years ago or 100 years ago. And I think about those characters, and that at least feeling or thought of the spirit behind the music is something that I've used. So that's more attuned to where my vibe comes from, is probably the Bacan side, as they'd say in Gaelic. The side of the ghosts and the fairies and the spirits. That stuff probably plays into my feelings and how I make music.
Have you seen any UFOs? And before you answer that, I have one of my most loyal listeners. Her name she goes by Goddess Michelle on Twitter. And she is actually a nurse in Halifax. And while she's calming down from her busy day through this whole COVID thing, she tunes into us to kind of relax her night so she could get some rest. And she's a big fan of yours. And I promised her I would say a giant hello to you from her.
Well, a special hello back to her, somebody working in an industry now that's saving our lives. It's with great honor that you say a special hi from Halifax. I do have a great experience before I ever had any type of ghost experience in my life, like that one I explained in the first half hour there about meeting an apparition on the middle of the road in 1989. Prior to that, around 1984, so I would have been 9 years old or 10 years old. It was either one in the summer. I think it was 84. My sister was maybe 5 or 6 years old. She was a little girl. We had an experience in our backyard where a bunch of kids were playing a game, go figure. It was called Ghost in the Graveyard, which was the reverse of playing hide and seek. So instead of, everybody hiding, one person hid, or, that sort of thing. So we were all out playing, and all of a sudden somebody screamed who was hiding, UFO, at the top of their lungs. And I looked up, and there it was, and everybody looked up, and everybody scattered in a million directions screaming for their lives. But I followed my instincts, and it was right above my garage. Like, we're talking, like, very low, not much higher than the height of the garage, above the tree beside the garage. And it hovers, and it spun, and it had the lights underneath it going around in a circle, and it had a beam in the center, and it looked like a pewter metallic upside-down pie tin-style UFO, as they say. And my sister was beside me. I grabbed her, and by instinct, I said, "Lisa, come with me." And we walked up the 10-foot incline, slight incline to closer to the tree and stared at it until my sister started crying. And I told her, as we're staring, I said, "Lisa, remember this. This is amazing. There's something wonderful in this world that's better than us." And, of course, it's 1984-ish. And Ethiopia was around, and we were little kids, and, everybody was sad about the death we were seeing on television of little kids being eaten by flies, and we thought, as children, what the hell is wrong with this world? And why do we get food and there's kids starving? We didn't know any better. But that gave me an insight right there as to, hey, There's something more powerful than what we know just all the time. And that was my first UFO real straight-on experience. And I can, just like I'm sitting looking at the wall of the house I'm looking at, I can visualize it just like yesterday. That was definitely something that brought me to an awareness as a human being, as a kid.
My goodness. You had to be freaked out.
Not at all. I was so excited. I was joyed. That's why I grabbed my sister's hand. I grabbed her and, I said, Lisa, look at this. And we stared at it. And, there was 15 of us outside playing and everybody else left. And, 20 seconds into this, not even a minute has gone by. My sister starts crying. I said, okay, let's go. We turn around. We ran into the house. It must have left. But it was so exciting because when you're a little kid, you're starting to wonder, what the hell is going on in this world? And then you see something like that. You wouldn't even have to see it on television. But, everybody knows by 7, 8, 9 years old what a UFO is. They've seen pictures or cartoons or whatever. I think for us it was the Flintstones and that little green goblin UFO guy, whatever his name was. But, I knew what a UFO, Kazoo, right? So we knew what a UFO was. And here's one right above me. I was excited. I wasn't into fiddle playing yet. I was dancing, so I was just a normal kid, 7, 8, 9 years old, that era where, WWF was getting huge, 83, 84, 85. I was watching that, explosion of Hollywood great movies like E.T. and such. So I have a concept of, just what I was as a kid. I was a typical 80s kid. And then to see something so fantastical, that was amazing.
Did you associate it with E.T. since that was the height of that time? And how long was it there for?
No, I didn't because E.T. would have been a couple of years before that, I believe. I went to a movie theater to see. It was the first movie I ever saw. I didn't associate it anything other than like what I'm talking to you is right now. It was something happening right now at that point. I was looking at it. I'm staring at it. I was going, this is effing amazing.
I don't blame you. I remember the first time I saw a UFO, I was 21 years old. And I can tell you point blank that I honestly thought that aliens were coming down. I really thought aliens were coming down to get me. So you're much braver than I was when I had that first one. And Merle, you just saw your first UFO about a year ago.
I did. I've been very closed off to aliens. I don't know why. I honestly don't, and UFOs. But when we were investigating in Oregon at a place called Wolf Creek Inn, we were setting up ghost hunting, like paranormal investigating. We were setting our gear up before going into this old hotel. And one of our investigators, she looks up and she goes, look at that. I'm like, what am I looking at? So I look up and we see, it was dark out, so you don't really see much except stars, except all of a sudden we saw like it looked like a big giant triangle shadow with 3 lights in each corner of the triangle. And it was just hovering pretty close to us if thinking about it, but you couldn't hear it. You couldn't, you could only see the lights in the triangle. Like it was eerie how quiet it was, and then it just flew away.
Same thing, Merle. This ship that I saw, there was no sound. You could tell that it was spinning at like an unknowable speed. It was going probably, at some type of, as look at things now, what people sort of surmise, like some type of anti-gravity propulsion outside. It was causing it to stay there. It was spinning unknowingly fast. You could tell there was motion, but you couldn't hear it, and it would have been so fast that you couldn't actually see the motion. It still looked still, and the lights were traveling underneath it on the bottom. Something super powerful in as far as like the engineering capabilities.
It was odd, and I even whipped out my phone and I did get a video of it because I wanted to show Dave. And in the video, if you watch the video on my phone, you can faintly see the 3 lights. But it was because it's funny, I ghost hunt, but then I'm extremely skeptic of UFOs. I don't know why, but that made me believe.
You're the same as me, Merle. I'm that way with Bigfoot. I haven't seen it. I go, how can there be a Bigfoot? But people say they're out there. And I understand people are skeptics. That's why I'm always skeptical about even anything that I say unless I really, really believe it. And if you see with your eyes and you're pretty certain what you're seeing, you'll come to realize, the only hesitation of not believing it is your own fear in believing that something so spectacular is happening.
Absolutely. I've been so stubborn for years with Dave. It's like a thing where I'm like, no, it was a satellite. No, satellite. But this wasn't a satellite.
Well, Merle, we won't tell Ashley then about the voices we heard in the forest when we were surrounded by Bigfoot.
Oh, yes. Tell him that story.
Oh, my goodness. You want a Bigfoot story?
If you tell me a Bigfoot story, I'll tell you about something that happened in 1999 that will completely blow your mind about something biological.
I know that story, and I was hoping you wouldn't bring that up until we get to the next hour. I want to kick off the next hour with that story, if you don't mind.
You're talking about something in the water, right?
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
Yeah,
and I should make the correction. Michelle on Twitter is kicking my butt. She is not in Halifax. She's in Annapolis Valley, Nova Scotia.
Well, that's even prettier. Annapolis Valley is known for its apple blossoms, and it's one of the most gorgeous parts of Nova Scotia. It's getting close to that area where the tragic events of, earlier this year in Nova Scotia, where so many innocent lives were taken by a complete lunatic madman, where the flags waved all across the country. It's farther down than that from Halifax, obviously, but you're down that end of Nova Scotia. It's a beautiful area, Annapolis.
Awesome. Thank you for mentioning that. And we love our Michelle around here, and I knew she'd kick my butt. Very, very intuitive. Very intuitive she is.
Tell me about the Bigfoot.
Okay. Bigfoot, here we go. So Mike comes up here, and where I live in the Caribou region of British Columbia. And back in 1965, there was a plane crash that exploded. The plane exploded, an old DC-6, exploded in midair about 34 kilometers from town. And so we went out there. Mike wanted to do a paranormal investigation there. And he's doing his paranormal investigation. Then all of a sudden he wants to take this deer trail into behind the crash site. And so our buddy Mark is kind of staying in the trees because he has a good view as we cross this meadow. And Mike and I go stand by this rock. And as we're standing there, we start hearing these weird voices, this weird voice, a male voice, and it's kind of like, something like that. And I look at Merle and I said, Merle, did you hear that? And in his typical, very straight up investigative way, he goes, hear what, Dave? And I said, that voice. And he goes, yep. And then we yell over at Mark to see if Mark had said anything to us. And Mark's like, no, didn't say a thing, boys. So we ended up hearing it again. So we're like, okay, well, let's just go back to the crash site thinking that maybe we heard something paranormal. Well, we go back to the crash site. Mark wanders into this little mini cul-de-sac that's there where they brought the recovery vehicles 50, 60 years ago. And Merle is investigating, and I'm kind of in between them. All of a sudden, Merle, and I'll let you take it from here, Merle, Merle starts hearing this noise like 20 feet in front of him. Go ahead, Merle. Tell us about that.
I do. Looking back on it, I think it was separating us. But that being said, I heard like the same, Dave, make your noise again. I'm not doing that noise. Exactly. I heard that, and I was...
That's the sound a Bigfoot would make. It would be just a growly sort of trying to talk.
Yeah, like a mumble, like a growly mumble. And from there, I was following this track, and then I hunt. And being a hunter, you kind of can feel when something living or some sort of life forms around you. And I kind of got that feeling when I was tracking the sound. And then all of a sudden, I got this extreme fear of dread, and I had to retreat and go back to Dave and Mark. And
just
that being said,
as you started moving away, I yelled at Mark that you had this weird noise right in front of you, maybe 20 feet. And I look over at Mark, and Mark is removing the rifle from his shoulder because he is having something big come right at him through the trees. And he didn't see it. But Mark's the type of guy where, Ashley, if you were in the forest with him, you'd be amazed. This guy can pick up a track. He's been an animal tracker, a hunting guide. He has been a cougar tracker, a wolf tracker. Any type of predators, he's the guy you call. And
yeah, there's people like that where I'm from in Cape Breton. Like when I was a kid, we'd go to the woods. You'd never go to the woods without a gun because there's cats. There's there's things around, and you learn to be prepared to sense what's happening around you.
Of course, of course. And so Mark all of a sudden removes his gun and raises it from his shoulder and raises it into the forest. And Mike and I come down to where he is, and Mike's like, I think it's time to leave. And Mark's like, yep. And I'm like, yeah, probably. So we ended up leaving. But, I've done some investigating there over the last couple of weeks. And I'll tell you, that's an interesting place. So if you ever get up here, we'll take you to where we got chased out of the forest by Sasquatch.
I'm always scared of cats in the woods. It's the one thing that I'm even more scared of than a bear. And they will make some pretty growly, crazy sounds. But if there's really Sasquatch out there, I think I would like to meet it. And now, not to take your show in a direction that probably people wouldn't expect it to go, but I'd date a Sasquatch. I'd date a Sasquatch, yeah.
Yeah.
Why not?
Just a little humor for you.
Okay. Well,
I've been called a Sasquatch by some of my partners, I'm sure.
My friend, you know what? I'll be okay. Since we're having honest moments here, I've said on the air that if female aliens wanted to abduct me, I'd go. I'm okay with that. I'll be the science experiment.
What gay Canadian celebrity doesn't want an anal probe? Is it time for commercial?
That's good.
You could have dropped that in about 90 seconds.
I got nothing for that one.
Wow. I don't even know how to react to that. That is awesome. That is absolutely.
Look, our lives as human beings are ones that are multifaceted. We have our sex life, we have our brain life, we have our cultural life. Things that are mysterious and paranormal, they play into all of it. And look, if you have a thing for female aliens, Dave, I will not judge.
All right. Yeah, Kink with Aliens here on Spaced Out Radio. We can't forget Bigfoot as well as, oh my goodness. I'm rattled. I am happily rattled by that, and I've got the biggest smile on my face because that is so funny right now. That is so funny. Thank you for the humor.
If I met Sasquatch, I'd have the biggest smile on my face.
Oh, this is awesome. This is absolutely awesome.
It's later. I'm in Nova Scotia, guys. It's like 2 a.m. The stuff is starting to come out. So, you guys across the rest of the country, it's a little earlier for you guys. But I'm past my bedtime now.
Oh, very true. Gentlemen, I'm going to get you to hold on as we only got about 30 seconds here before we got to go to break at the top of the hour. And, I don't know how to continue. Thank goodness we are close to a break right now. It just works for us.
The chat logs approve. They love it.
Oh, yes. They are loving you. Absolutely loving you. And another Nova Scotian bomber, the bombshell bomber, we call her. She says, OMG, I freaking love Ashley MacIsaac. So you're making a lot of people happy tonight here, Ashley, for being on Spaced Out Radio. And we got Ashley MacIsaac and Merle for another 90 minutes here on the Mighty SOR. And when we come back from the break, we are going to get into a really, really cool story here, as Ashley is going to tell us about an encounter he had out on the water. Sea monsters, anyone? I need to hear this story. I know you do too. We'll be back with Spaced Out Radio coming up right after this.
me and their family members about what we experience. I don't talk about it very much because of all the things. For some reason, biological things tend to be the farthest offshoot of where the mainstream can accept until a cryptid is discovered, I guess. I think that's the right word. I see it used
I'll be
now
right
on
back,
TV.
guys. You guys
But
chat
that's
away.
why,
Totally.
that's why Bigfoot is considered weird, and sea monsters are considered weird, and Ogopogo in British Columbia, that sort of thing. I think people find that stuff weird, but there's so much to discover, and as we're all looking inside ourselves now during this pandemic, where we can't share human touch as much as we might have, the feeling that you get when you see something or experience something like I'm going to talk about, it's a physical feeling because it's biological. I've had one recent UFO thing that I thought it might have been, that the ship type thing or the orb I saw was like really, it didn't look like it was man-made. It looked like an organism or something. I don't know what it was. But that wasn't even the same. When you see a creature or you have that feeling, like you say when you're out hunting in the woods, that's something also that has blood and a heart pumping, that really, it makes you feel human, right? It makes you, I love those stories, and I've had an experience about it. I'm so happy to get to tell it.
Yeah, my first, I was very skeptic of Bigfoot, Sasquatch as well. Being in BC, it's everyone, it's a gimmick for here too, right? Like you go into Harrison Hot Springs or Hope, British Columbia, and everyone's like, "Oh, Bigfoot town." And
Right.
I was hunting up in.
It's like Loch Ness Monster, that gimmicky vibe that people put onto it, right?
Yeah, and being in the paranormal community, I'm open to it. I've talked to a lot of people who's experienced Bigfoot, like Dave and all that have. I had an experience I can't explain. I was hunting probably 4 years ago, and this was before I had any Bigfoot experiences. And I was just sitting on like a wood pile, waiting for deer or whatever to come down. And all of a sudden, I've been hunting long enough where I know what a bear sounds like, what a cougar sounds like, what a moose sounds like, all of that stuff. And all of a sudden, I hear wood knocking. Like, so I heard a big snap of a tree, like not like a branch, but like a thick part of the tree. And then all of a sudden, over and over again, I heard knocking on a different tree. And then tree branches, in the old 80s WWE where like Ultimate Warrior would grab the ropes and shake the ropes. Right, if you watched wrestling. That's what it sounded like this thing was doing. And it wouldn't come out of the tree line. But then when I got scared out of my wits, I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm done here. I quietly walked to my vehicle, and the second I got to my vehicle, it stopped. So it was almost like something was warning me to get out of that area. That's a story I seldom tell, but in my opinion, that could have been Bigfoot.
There's something though. You know when it's a real creature. That was the thing with the ghost story that I told off the top about Christmas Eve. I mean, my images of ghosts are growing up from TV. I was like these wisps, or it's maybe a halo or a shadow, and I've had all kinds of experiences. But when you see something solid, you go, okay, that was at least a person at one point. When it's actually something that's living, you feel it. You know that it's there. And that's why I can't say I don't believe in Bigfoots, because if people think and speak as deeply as they do about their experiences with it, I have to go, I guess they must feel the same thing that I felt when I had that feeling in the woods. Or, like I've been hunting as a kid for rabbits, and that there's a cat, or it's not a deer, so it has to be a cat type thing. What's going behind you in the woods, and you get a sense of it. So there's something or very organic and very natural about a living creature that's an odd one.
I think our body has that technology of giving like an internal alarm, so kind of in a way.
Yeah.
And that's something I'd like to look into more or study more, our body's natural alarm system, because it often happens when you're in the bush. Right? Yeah.
So many innate feelings that we don't understand unless you're a studier of biology and psychology and the reactions in between. There's probably hundreds and hundreds of these things that are natural reactions, like the flight or fight response, that have to do particularly with animals.
Exactly. And even like with paranormal investigating, when you go into a haunted room or a haunted building, you know that it's haunted, that there's things in there.
Yeah, that's a weird one for me. I was discussing that with Dave before today, the pre-show conversation, and I was discussing how I've never been to somewhere particularly to search for ghost experiences. I just have had them, and they've tended, in most of my experience, been around times where I've had extreme fretting going on, where I couldn't figure out an answer to a situation that was an emotional one, that it was like there was no logic anymore. And in those fretting moments, I've had some pretty weird things sort of show up and go, what? And maybe that's how they show up as attraction. But a lot of
40
people,
seconds,
like
guys.
yourself, go out and hunt these.
40
you
seconds.
Guys that go out and hunt these things, you must know certain places that are actually haunted.
Oh, yeah.
100%. You can feel it, yeah.
Ashley, 30 seconds left. My YouTube crowd needs 2 questions quickly answered here. What's your thoughts on eating breakfast foods for dinner?
I will eat breakfast foods any time of the day, but I do enjoy eating dinner foods for breakfast even more.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. And number 2, I'll ask number 2 at the bottom of the hour. It's in regards to close encounters of the third kind. Here we go, guys.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate it. Hi to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live and Revolution Radio. Remember, you can check out all of our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Onychophagist. Onychophagist is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. We continue on with Ghosts of the Great White North from the Paranormal Road Trippers, based out of Vancouver, British Columbia. We have Merle here, as he joins me once a month. Also, we have a special guest tonight, Canadian musician, award-winning fiddler, Ashley MacIsaac. Gentlemen, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio.
Hi again, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
No problem.
Let's get into the story. Let's get into it.
I know. We got to get right into this one because ever since you mentioned it the first time we talked, Ashley, I have waited to hear this patiently on the air here. I didn't want you to tell me on the phone. If you recall, I said, no, don't tell me that story. Don't want to hear it until we got you on the air. Now we're going to hear it. You have seen a sea monster.
I have. And I really agreed to do your show because it was about ghosts, and I'd say the overall picture of paranormal is, I think there's so many different things that includes. Obviously, we all think that way. And I have had multiple things, from UFOs to ghosts to, odd sort of poltergeisty type things. And even I can tell you stories, if you want, later about, like in that old exorcism movie where the writing came out on the skin. I haven't had that, but I've been scratched. So I've had a lot of physical different things. In the last half hour, you're talking about animals and Bigfoot and the feelings that are about our natural reaction to things. I had an experience that was of a biologically made creature that's in the water that people call sea monsters. Now, it's not something I've ever spoke about really in any of my shows. I've said it in like passing, and it just comes off like I'm telling a joke when I've told all these other ghost stories, and then I'll say, yeah, I've seen a sea monster too, and people go, ha, 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 It becomes a tagline for a joke. It was no joke to see it. It was 1989. I was there with a good friend. We were both 15 years old. It was the month of May. And in the month of May, that's when lobster season starts in the zone that I'm part of, as lobster zoning areas for licensing goes around the province. And we still had ice in that year in front of us in the Northumberland Strait, or the Strait of Cancer it turns into. And my little home in Craignish, Cape Breton, was only about maybe 2 miles at the most of a walk. So, you know, a good mile and a half, let's say, down the road, down to the beach, where you'd be on the shoreline. And myself and my friend decided to get on his three-wheeler at the time, an ATV, and drive down to see the ice that was still in, because, you know, everybody in the small village knew the lobster season was supposed to start. My friend was a lobster fisherman, his family, and another friend down the road. So it was sort of a topic of discussion at that point. And, of course, as little kids, so I'm not little at that point, 15, we're all excited about lobster season coming because we're going to get to eat fresh lobsters. So we drove down to the beach that one day, a young McGinnis fella, and went down to the beach. I mean, sometimes it was so fascinating what happened. I wonder, was it that day I was there with the McGinnis kid, or was it with the McNeil kid? That really is stepped out of my mind. They're both great friends, and if I look in my mind's eye and picture the person beside me, it doesn't even matter, because the person was there, and we were both saying what you had said before in something. It came to that conclusion. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? So, you know, we went to the beach, went down, stood at the beach line, and we're looking out, and probably about, 500 feet, so 500 to 700 feet out on the water, a couple of 100 yards, there was still the pack ice. Now, the pack ice comes down from the north, from basically Greenland area all the way down, fills up past Newfoundland, right into Cape Breton in that cove on one of these years that it was heavy, thick ice, and it hadn't fully gone yet, which it should have by that point, but it was a late spring that was starting. The lobster fishermen could not put their traps out that week that was coming up, we figured, because it wouldn't have been safe yet, and meant the season was going to be moved a couple of weeks, which nobody ever wanted. So we're standing there, we're looking out over the water, and, you know, I was young and just chatting. I don't think I started smoking cigarettes yet. I don't think I had a cigarette or anything. But we're looking out over it, and, you know, before too long, all of a sudden, something popped out of the water. So as I say, the end of the ice would have been a couple 100 yards out. So maybe 50 yards back of that, so 400 feet out in the water, probably. Quite a ways. But when you're standing on the shore of a beach, and it's just one big, long beach with, the water and the horizon out there, and you can see the ice, you have a clarity of vision to let you see even that far clearly what's happening. Because you could see the edge of the ice that was even farther out. And at the very front was I'm using my hands right now to consider the measurement, but what I figured out eventually from doing some sort of mathematical equations as an adult, what the lengths were, probably from the snout to the end of the first section, which was the head, the snout to the back of almost the start of the neck, would have been something between 6 to 10 feet long. So it was longer than a person, a normal average person, floating at the top part of the water. You could see what looked like, basically, would be the length of like an alligator head, but way longer, 6 to 10 feet. And so there's 4 or 5 feet of that part coming above the water, which was probably, you know, it had to have been at least a couple of feet out of the water for us to distinguish what it was that far away. So a big, huge, long head that goes back like an alligator, back to right before the neck, the arch of the head, a completely huge, the size of a steering wheel it had to be, or larger, because we could see it clearly, eye on now we're looking at that side of it, you know? So we're looking at it straight out. There's the head, and there's the eye. You go back another, must have been 5 or 6 feet, not very far, and the first reticulated part of a snake-type body came out of the water and went for a distance of anywhere from 15 to 20 feet.
Oh.
Now, it had to be as wide as I could put my arms way out in a circle, and can imagine if you could put your arms around. So this is this big, huge chunk of snake that you can see through because it's arched, the horizon out on the other side, and still the water and the ice. So you got this long head with an eye, then a space, then this first reticulation, then you go another 5-10 feet, and the second reticulation that wasn't entirely out, but was out enough that you could tell it was still snake and not a chunk of body, that went for another 15 or 20 feet. And then after that, probably 4 or 5 or 10 feet, whatever it was, a small distance away, was a part that went for another at least 10 feet. That wasn't a tall out, but was just flat. And at the end of that, you could tell after another couple of feet, there was a part that was like a tail, because that moved a bit. That would have been the end of this. Had to have been 40 to 70 feet long sea serpent with an eye that was so large that as we looked at it, it reflected its huge dark eye, its retina, towards us, and we figured could actually see us on the shore. And I looked at the guy beside me and I said, "Are you seeing what I'm seeing?" And he said, "Yeah." And we watched that for, at least a couple of minutes. We just stood there in silence going, wow. And then eventually it just went under the water, and that was it. That was what I can only compare to in old art. In Iceland, they called an Icelandic worm or sea serpent, and was there in paintings of boats from the 1600s that people had seen, and definitely probably came down with that ice and normally would go back with that ice. That water right there is the deepest man-made causeway in the world that is very close to the Cancel Causeway off of Cape Breton. And, it goes down 500 feet in shallow areas. It goes deeper than that. So we're talking really deep water. The ice had covered it. The ice hadn't fully left. And I think this creature decided it was going to hang out a little longer, too, until the ice left. That would have been around May 15th of 1990.
That is stunning. Stunning. I mean, when you saw this, you obviously had a clear view. At 400 feet, though, I mean, it could be anything. What made you believe this was a sea monster, not a narwhal or some sort of oarfish?
Well, the first part is that it was about 70 feet long. It was 50 to 70 feet long from head to tail. And the reticulation that I say, I mean, it could have been a body that would have been, if I hold my hands apart, let's say, far 3-4 feet. Now, you consider it's that thick that I'm thinking as I'm perceiving from out there. Maybe it was 10 feet. Maybe it was 20 feet wide. I don't know, because it was really far out. But I'm looking at this snake part of body that humped up with an arch enough that you could see through it, as I say, back the horizon and the ice behind it. That first one went 15 feet. And the head was so big and so long that the eye was, as I say, large enough to see it, articulate towards us like it was seeing us on the shore. Now, I guess 400 or 500 feet. Maybe I'm wrong in that. If I'm looking right now from where I'm sitting, 100 feet away seems, like it wouldn't be far enough. It had to have been at least 200 feet out there. And I could see it plainly, clearly, 15-year-old, perfectly 20/20 vision on a gorgeous, clear morning on like a Saturday or whatever it was where we weren't in school. And it's springtime, so the light is perfect. We're into May, but there's still this winter white ice clarity in the air there. So it's the time of year where the sun is starting to come back because it's spring. You still have this beautiful clarity and the blue water, and there was no doubt in my mind I wasn't seeing like a school of fish way out there. I was looking at the front and the hump and the next hump and the part after it and the tail, and it was long.
Well, I gotta say, go ahead, Merle.
I was gonna say I'm gonna add a comment to that. So my uncle, he lives in Nova Scotia, Halifax. He's retired. He was in the Navy. He was one of the guys, like a commander on a submarine, and he used to always tell stories how when they after all the ice was gone and starting spring into summer, when they would be operating and practicing in the submarines up and down the coast, he used to always see this creature. He used to call it the dinner plate monster. He said it had eyes the size of dinner plates, and it would always go beside their ship, and it would scare the crap out of all of the men in the submarine because it was so massive. So your story totally just gave me chills because it made me think of my uncle's stories he'd always tell growing up.
I read somewhere in the late 70s of a fisherman that if you go up the coast from where I was to an area called Meat Cove, which is the far tip of Cape Breton, which is facing then towards Newfoundland, it's a canoe trip between there and Newfoundland of about, 40 miles or whatever it is, a long canoe trip. But up there, some fishermen reported seeing what I described in the late 70s in some old Cape Breton magazine. I can't remember exactly how I found it online at one point in searching it. And there was a period a number of years ago I started thinking about, all these things that I've never talked about publicly because, as you said in the beginning, it's not the thing that most artists are trying to put out there. They're trying to sell their music. They're trying to go out and be in the public and be accepted for what they're selling, unless, you're into that world where you're selling something like paranormal stuff. And I thought about it for a while, about 10 years ago, looking at my life at that point as an age going, am I ever going to talk about these things? And sea monsters are one that definitely people will think that guy is a lunatic because not very many people get to see them, I don't think. I've read about the Ogopogo, we know about the Loch Ness, different type of plesiosaur-looking things. I didn't see no plesiosaur, nothing. I saw a sea serpent that was so long and was a snake, and I don't imagine that there's anything that weird about that. To me, weird is seeing a UFO or seeing a ghost. We don't know what's in the water. We're not under there enough. And when there's been reports over the years of these things, apparently I found something last year about a report off of, I think it was Massachusetts or Maine, in one community in the late 1800s, had a constant sighting of this type of creature, so much that the summer it was cited by thousands of people who continued to flock there after reports in the New York Times about it, and it hung out there for a long time. So sea monsters, to me, it's an organic thing that is out there, and we just don't have real good footage. Now, we just recently saw footage of those giant squids, right, that the Japanese found in the last 10 years. So when people say that, when I say I don't necessarily believe in, because I haven't seen something, I don't have enough reason to understand people's beliefs in Sasquatch, that would be a lie. I understand people's beliefs in organic creatures because there's stuff out there we just haven't discovered yet.
Just another reason not to go into the ocean. Megalodons, kraken,
I don't go there very much.
Sea monsters in Nova Scotia. I'm telling you, I'm a meal. I am an absolute meal to anything swimming in the ocean. And this just gives me more confirmation not to do that.
There are sharks right now being spotted all around Nova Scotia. It's a new phenomenon. They used to be here, but they're here a lot more because of sea currents. And just today, a great white was pinged just off that area from where I'm talking about, closer to Port Hood, which is another area. And if things move around at different times and different things, why wouldn't there be? And I never, after that point, went into that water farther than about 10 feet out in the summer. I've been petrified of it. It's why I live in Ontario, because I love to be in the water, but I want to swim in lakes. I have a thing about the ocean, but how big it is, what's in there, and yeah, there might be things in lakes, but I don't think I'd swim where they say Ogopogo is. But a friend of mine who would be a brother to the person I'm saying was beside me there, I saw him post on Facebook tonight, when I said I was going to be part of this show. I went and played for his wedding, and God bless him, his wife just passed away of a terminal illness that was, just shocking. A very young man with a beautiful young girl. And I went to the wedding, And I'll never forget that day. He took me out in the boat. It was the first time I've ever been out in a boat out there in that water. And he knew about my experience. And he said, no, just put your feet in the edge of the water. And I'm way far out, like farther than 500 yards. Like, we're talking a mile out, almost across the other side. And I said, you will leave the boat. You will move it, won't you? No, I swear I won't. And he was doing it just to make all those girls laugh at that silly gay guy that he knew was going to scream. And I got in the water, and he put the boat on. And there I was out in the middle of that water for the first time ever in a summertime, way out. And I'll tell him, I'll never forgive him. I'll never forgive him. I was so scared. I don't like being in that water, I got to say, after that experience.
No, there's just no need. No need. Everything can eat you. Everything, whether it's a little leech, whether it's fish, whether it's octopus, kraken, sharks, everything wants to eat you in the ocean or any type of water outlet.
Nobody ever says it, but to me, my biggest fear has always been in the water. How come nobody thinks that a whale isn't going to eat you? You're not a whale. They say they just eat krill. They just eat this. If I'm way out in the water and a whale happens to open its mouth and I fall in it and I'm inside there, I'm going to say to myself, you know what, you deserve this because you shouldn't have been in this water.
Exactly.
There's a new video on YouTube circulating where it shows a happy orca whale looking all happy, going after a great white and absolutely gutting it. Whales aren't friendly. None of them are our friends.
No.
We mostly have pilot whales. Not very vicious ones usually, and there's some of the big ones show up out here, but it's always been a fear of mine is in the water, you can't see what's coming up underneath. At least in the woods, you might hear it, and you can run. It might be faster than you, but in the water, I don't even like it when like a 2-inch crab touches my foot.
No, they want to eat you. They will try and eat you. I'll take the forest anytime over the ocean. Now, just for the record, I'm not saying that we got to hunt down sharks or whales or anything like that. They can have their own space because they're beautiful to see in pictures and video. Okay, but going into the ocean, okay, or going to where sea monsters live, like Ogopogo or Champ or Nessie, all right, this stuff is how people die in horror movies. Not going there.
Look, I agree with you. The ocean is beautiful, and they deserve their space. But like I was trying to say there, you got to love the Japanese because, we don't want them to fish them all. But I love eating sushi. And if you put a whale on my plate in front of me, I'm sorry. If I'm up in the Arctic and somebody caught that narwhal and they used their ulu to cut me a piece, I'm eating it happily. I don't want it eating me.
Well, I would sooner see it survive. But that's just me. Because I kind of like whales.
I agree. I'm being funny. I agree. I'm trying to be funny.
I know. You're the kind of guy. You're finishing everything on your plate. You're that guy.
Yeah, a traditional culture where it happens, great. I'm not going to turn it down. If you give me the eyeballs of a whatever, I'll probably squint as I eat it.
Well, you being Scottish, you should like some haggis or something like that.
Oh, there's some weird things, yeah. There's one dish that the priest I mentioned before, he used to make it every year at Christmas time. He'd say, okay, it's coming out now. We're going to take it out early. He'd dig a hole in the ground in around October. He'd get his housekeeper to put the equivalent amount of beef to pepper. So it was basically a pound of beef and a pound of ground pepper. He'd grind it together and stick it in an oven in a tin foil and cook it for about 5 hours until it was hard. Dig a hole in the ground, bury it, take it out 4 months later, and slice it up and say, you want some Scottish pepperoni?
Oh, no. Oh.
Nope.
Not me. Not me
Tasty.
At all. So
Tasty stuff, man. Tasty stuff.
we only got about 20 seconds here, and I still have questions about the sea monster. Maybe we'll get to them. However, I'll probably forget them during the break, and we'll figure out another topic to go down. But, I mean, this is something that I have a fear of, gentlemen, sea monsters. And I want to say thank you for scaring the daylights out of me. Our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio, we have Merle from Paranormal Road Trippers. He's usually with me right by my side during this show that we call Ghosts of the Great White North. And our special guest tonight, Canadian music artist, award-winning Ashley MacIsaac. We continue with Ghosts of the Great White North on Spaced Out Radio, coming up right after this.
Ready for some cultural stuff. I'd like to, if we get the chance, Dave, you can ask me about some of the stuff that, were urban legends, but, rural legends when I grew up. And obviously being Scottish and playing Scottish fiddle music, there's a lot of them. I have a French side and I have a Mi'kmaq side, possibly back on my French side a bit. I don't know. But my Scottish side has some crazy things around Cape Breton, and I'll tell you some of those things and how they relate to other experience I had. And if you really want a great story, I haven't told this one only on stage for the last few years because it happened only a few years ago. It's a magnificently detailed story about, believe it or not, I possibly had a haunted fiddle.
Haunted fiddle? Oh, my.
Did you really? Oh, boy. Let's start with that one.
Tell me you still have it.
That's the end of the story.
Okay. All right.
Oh.
It's the full story.
All right.
Because what happened during having this is insane that I did have it and tried to get it away from me so often, and how I eventually did get it away from me and where it now is in glass protected. It's wild where it ended up.
Merle, we got to see that. We're gonna learn about this. Okay, no more talk about that, so that way the audience doesn't get going. Okay, question for the audience here, Ashley. Okay,
I'll be right back.
You remember the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind?
I love it.
Okay, Devil's Tower in Wyoming.
Mm-hmm.
Are you on Team Stump?
Is that the tower in the movie? One?
Yeah. Are you on Team Stump or are you on Team Rock?
I don't know what stump or rock means. Were they characters in the movie?
No. Do you think it's the stump of a tree or one giant lava rock mass?
Oh, well, just from having seen it on the movie, I would look at it and think it looks to me like some type of clay up tilt. Like, that's what I always thought it was some type of, when Earth shifts and stuff. To me, that looked like, but I just visualized it as a whole image and him trying to make it in his kitchen and draw it out of things. I never really looked at it from that perspective. I just like the fact that it's an alien movie.
I know, right? That is fantastic.
I like the music side of it.
Oh yeah. We're gonna rule you. We're gonna rule you as Team Rock over Team Stump then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Otherwise, that stump was so big that the guy who chopped down the tree had to have been the guy on the brawny paper towel.
Yes. Absolutely.
Oh. And his big blue ox.
No kidding. Dude, I cannot believe how many great white sharks are coming around Nova Scotia now that they've been tracking.
It's wild.
It's like,
it's wild.
Like, apparently that's not even a normal pattern that the sharks are exploring this new territory.
There's been global tilt. I've been saying for 20 years we're in a place where access is changing. It has an effect on our climates and how it moves. When you look at the fact that when I was a kid 30 years ago, Texas didn't get snow, and then it got snow, and things, the way the weather patterns shift, I think that's happening in the oceans too. I don't think it's just based on our own degrees of temperature, changes of water currents. I think there's just a shift. So the things that used to just hang out over in Portugal are coming across more. They're following the scent. Maybe there's less fish, and they're following other fish that are going for it. But I think that there's something in the water that the currents have changed that's not just based on the climate change of our doing, that has a little bit to do with shift. I tend to believe that was a Russian concept 20 years ago, that was what was happening.
That's amazing. All right, we've got about 1 minute here. Is Merle back yet? Do we know if Merle is here?
Merle's back. Hey, Dave.
Yes.
Did you know that we have great whites that float in and out of our oceans on the West Coast, too?
Why do you think I don't go in the ocean, my friend? I haven't gone in the ocean since I lived on Vancouver Island, and there was a 20-foot great white caught in Bamfield, which is just south of Ucluelet on the West Coast. When I heard that story from one of the fishermen, I was like, nope, I'm done. There's no need.
Did you know? Hey, Dave, did you know truck dives?
Imagine what comes across, guys. What comes across the Pacific after those giant earthquakes and tsunamis that got pumped up underwater?
All right.
Man, there might have been there's some Godzillas out there.
Hold on, guys. We're going to get going here in about 10 seconds. Thank you, Teresa and Science Bob, for the super chats tonight. Really do appreciate the support. Here we go. We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us tonight. I want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Tonight we have Ghosts of the Great White North continuing tonight from the Paranormal Road Trippers out of Vancouver, British Columbia. We have Merle with us and our special guest, Canadian recording artist, Canadian award-winning musician, Ashley MacIsaac. And Ashley, I got to ask you this. We're going from sea serpents, and I was going to ask you a couple questions about that, but no, I want to move on because you mentioned something during the break that we need to get to. You potentially had a haunted fiddle.
I did, yeah. It happened not too long ago. It seems ridiculous. I'm known for being a fiddle player, so of course, I would think a fiddle I had was haunted. That's an old classic story. But I'm here right now in Cape Breton Island. I'm here in self-isolation. I've been 7 days in. I'm here for a festival called Celtic Colors. Celtic Colors is a music festival that'll be online starting next week on the Friday night. And every year it's gone for about 25 years. It's a big festival. I'd come from it one year, a number of years ago, probably around 2013, maybe it was. And I had a successful week of events, and I played, and everybody had a great time. It was a good atmosphere. I got on my plane. I flew back to Toronto. I was living out near Peterborough at the time. And I went downtown to my fiddle violin repair shop, the most well-known one, and had $10,000 cash in my pocket. I'd done this big festival. I took it cash. I got paid well, and I was going in to get repair work done. Well, lo and behold, I walk in and I find that there's a violin there that I've always wanted one of these makes of violins. I always play cheap student model violins. I grew up with them. I never had an expensive violin like a lot of fiddlers. And if I was going to get a good one, everybody wants a Stradivarius or a Amati, but those are so much money that with my experience being a musician, where I often break my fiddle after playing Devil in the Kitchen, that sort of thing, I didn't want to ever own something that expensive. But I wanted this one kind of instrument that everybody else that was a good fiddler in Cape Breton had, and I never had one. And I walked in, and here was this one. After I was looking at a couple other ones, the guy said, "Hey, what do you think of this?" And I go, "Oh, my God, don't show it to me. I know it's beautiful. It's so wonderful. Take it away. Take it away. Let me touch it." So I picked it up, and I was like, "How much is it?" And he goes, "That's about $10,000." I go, "Oh, God." I had my money in my pocket. I was like, "Oh, you're not going to do this. You're not." And I go, "I can't. Take it away." "No, give me a bow." I picked it up. I played it. It was stunning. It was a 1929 Roth violin. And that violin is rare because in 1929, with the stock market crash, all the great symphony players in America that would have ordered one of these violins from Germany, handmade by the Roth family, they had to cancel their orders. Symphonies canceled their orders. All kinds of people couldn't buy them. So they were just relabeled the next year and sold as 1930s. But this one 1929 of, maybe 50 that ever got out that year was there that day. And the story was that, a rich dentist or doctor had bought it in 1929 or 30 in Toronto. It sat in his house for 60 years. He died. The kids had it. They then took it for sale, and he never really played it. He played it for a Christmas carol once a year. And here it is going in my hands, and I know how to make a fiddle like that work. So I'm looking at it. I had to buy it. I took it. I went out to my car. That's a lie. I didn't take it yet. I went out to my car to call somebody to say I was going to get it. And they are somebody, again, part of that family of McGinnises that were in Cape Breton, that were neighbors, that really knew fiddle music. And I called them up and I said, how you doing? I said, I'm going to have the best Roth in Cape Breton. I'm going to have the best Roth in Cape Breton. They're like, what are you talking about? I said, I got this violin right now I'm going to buy. It's extraordinary. It's beautiful. It's blonde. It's perfect. I'm going to take it to the big festival in Cape Breton next year and play the best music they ever heard. It's going to be wild. People are going to love it. I have an instrument back that's going to make me sound great. Because the instrument I played from the beginning is no longer playable. That's gone through a lot of damages. So here I was getting one, talked to the guy. He said, Ashley, I got to tell you something. I said, what? He said, do you know your cousin, Kristen Ryan? I said, well, sort of. He said, she died this morning. I said, what? And Kristen was 18 years old, young girl, blonde, beautiful, athletic, just this charming girl who played the violin. And she was into soccer and everything else. And she had left down the area that day, got in a car accident in the morning, crashed, and died, tragically. So here I am, all full of myself about this violin, and the next thing is, did you hear your cousin, this violin player, was killed this morning? And I was just taken back. And I was pumping myself, thinking about how great it was, something I had that I could do with this fiddle, and, I had the money in my pocket. And this young girl never got to see through her life because of this horrible accident. It was gutted. I hung up the phone. I went inside. I said, okay, I'm buying the violin, and I left. I got back in the car with it. I looked at it, and it was this gorgeous blonde, and I said to myself, I never named an instrument before. I'm going to call you Kristen. You're my special fiddle. So I went home with it. I didn't play it publicly. I played it for a few months, and I played it wonderfully at my home. It sounded gorgeous. I was even learning to play classical music on it, which isn't natural for me so much. It just had such a tone. And then I had my first gig to go out and play. It was at a place called The Sanctuary. It was a former church that had been turned into a rock club down near Niagara Falls. It was sometime near the end of March. It was probably a St. Patrick's Day related event. And it was usually rock shows, but I was going in to do a traditional thing there. But, Ashley MacIsaac fans were coming out for whatever reason to be there during St. Patrick's Day. So it was pretty low-key from what I was doing. I wasn't, doing Devil in the Kitchen. I wasn't pumping it that way. I was playing my traditional music the way I know how, with a piano player and a guitar player. I go out on stage. I play 2 numbers. It's balking. It's not working. All of a sudden, the one string won't stay in tune. The pickup isn't working. It's just funking out. So I put it in my case. I pick up my other regular fiddle. I play. That's that. I leave that night, and I thought, now the balkans get in that fiddle. The ghosts were in it. It's not, I don't know why it didn't work. So I didn't play it again for a while. It's getting close then to mid-July, and I'm thinking about playing it. And I'm going to come down and play it for that concert now in Cape Breton. The week before, probably the 20th or 22nd of July, all of a sudden get the phone calls. Ashley, did you hear about the tragic event? No, what happened? 2 of your cousins were just killed in a car accident, and another person, and there were 7 other, there's 7 kids in this car. They came around in this area. They came too fast. They hit a bridge. It's tragic. So there I was coming home to Cape Breton to play this concert, and I'm not coming home now at a time of joy. I go out and I play, and I, at the start of this show on the Sunday, which is the day of one of the funerals, a big crowd there, I dedicate the show to the people, and, you know, I played this, and it played well, and that was that. I went back home to Windsor, Ontario. You know, when I'm sitting there, it's August, and all of a sudden, the neighbor shows up. I'm not there. I come home, and they had left a newspaper with the pictures of the 3 boys who had died on the front of this local Cape Breton paper that she had sent to her. And I put it on my table, and I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, oh, gosh, you know, and it starts the story. It was a cold, misty day when Ashley played the fiddle for, and went on and talked about these guys. And so I'm thinking about it. And I don't save much stuff, but I thought I'm going to save that newspaper as a memory of what happened that year, this tragic event. And I went to my cupboard, and I put it in my top cupboard. And the lady, when I had moved into that house, she was an old lady from Cape Breton who had brought up in the 1950s holy water. It's from Cape Breton, so it's like 60 years in her house at that point. She'd brought it to my house, and I didn't want holy water in my house. I had a house in Cape Breton that burnt down and had holy water in it. That didn't stop it. I didn't care. But I didn't throw it away on her because it was, you know, special. She gave it to me. I placed that holy water up on top of that newspaper, the boys. Closed the cupboard, didn't think about it. A couple of weeks later, all of a sudden I'm getting a weird vibe. And I get a call from her. She says, Ashley, a friend of mine is, you know, or from another one, a friend of hers was dying of cancer. Will you come play at this thing? I go and I sit and I play at it. It's a joyous thing. I play outdoors. And they do some fundraising. She says, you come over to my house afterwards. I go there, and I'm playing the fiddle, and my eyes are closed, and I'm playing a tune called the Harbour View Jig, which is where this event had taken place. And these, you know, 7 or 8 old ladies are sitting around the house, and I open my eyes and go, Ashley, what are you thinking of when you're playing? And I told them I was thinking about these kids. So I played, I went home. That was the next time I played the fiddle. I put it away. I sit down on my couch, and all of a sudden, a television show comes on, that weird thing. It was about somebody getting a knock on the door. It opens the show with the knock on the door, and all of a sudden, there's a policeman saying to this woman, your son has been killed. You know, ooh. And it made me think about that newspaper and these young people. And my phone rang. And it was my mother. And she's going, oh my God, we don't know what's going on. There's something happening. I say, what's happening? Well, it turns out my brother was killed in a car accident.
Oh, no way.
So I'm sitting there and I'm going, okay, I just played this fiddle. I have all these thoughts around this fiddle. I bought it when a girl died, my cousin, in a car accident. So other people killed in a car accident. Now my brother's killed in a car accident. I can't look at this fiddle right now because it's just making all these memories of car accidents. I don't want this fiddle anymore. That's what I'm thinking. So I go to Cape Breton. I get on the plane the next morning. I was supposed to be coming out to BC to play in Victoria that night, but of course I couldn't because my brother was dead. I arrive in Cape Breton. I'm there for the funeral. I take my fiddle to Halifax afterwards and try and sell it. Well, it's in the store for a few months. Nobody will buy it. I put it at a cut rate. I put it at half price. Nobody wants to buy it. I end up eventually taking it back. The next time I take it out to play is the following year of the Celtic Colors. We're talking now probably 2015, something like that. And I tell the people the stories of this violin that I have, and I take it out to do my show. It works perfect until the last number. It doesn't work. It balks again. I put it away because I don't like this fiddle. I'm getting rid of it. I go out to the woods where there's a place where there's a giant fiddle that's made out of flowers out at a Gaelic college where they say their spirit. And I have a piece in that fiddle case of my brother's car from the accident that I picked up on the side of the road. I dig into the fiddle and I bury this. And then it's, 1 in the morning and there's people walking around at this event. And I'm just ready to smash my fiddle into bits. And a man goes, "What's going on?" I go, "I'm getting rid of this. You want a fiddle?" He goes, "What are you talking about?" I said, "I don't like this anymore. You want it?" And he goes, "Okay." So I just walk away. I get back to my home a few days later. I get a phone call from U.S. Customs. Is this Mr. MacIsaac? We had somebody try to cross the border with a violin. He said he got it from you, and he's not allowed to take that into America. We'd like to send it back to you. This thing just will not leave me. So finally, skip ahead to the next spring. I decided I'm going to sell this. I go into a pawn shop in Prince Edward Island. I walk in, I say, would you like to buy a fiddle that's Ashley MacIsaac's? They go, well, how do you know it's Ashley's? I say, it's mine. I'm Ashley. Oh, well, maybe. Well, we don't usually spend that much for things. I showed him the information on what it was, how much it had value, and then said, I'll take whatever. You want to give me gold value. You'd be making money that way. Give me something. He said, I'll give you about $3,500 in gold. So I go up to the car, and I call my mother, and I say, Mom, do you know the brother of my cousin who died? Because I didn't know. I got a lot of cousins. Didn't know them that well. She said, yeah. I said, can you call his mother and get his phone number? She said, yeah. So I call him up. I knew he was a successful person. He's a world champion bodybuilder. He runs a gym. He had lots of money. I figure, I'll call this guy. Maybe he wants to buy this fiddle. I call him up and I say, listen, I don't really know you that well. You've heard me talk about this story about this fiddle that I bought the day your sister died. And something's telling me right now not to sell it to these pawn guys. Do you have any interest in paying me the money for this fiddle? And he goes, wow, you're calling me today, are you? And I said, yeah. He said, well, I think I will. And I said, well, that'd be amazing because I was just going to sell it. And, I think there's something weird about this instrument. And he goes, well, you know what's really weird, Ashley? I said, what? He said, today's Kristen's birthday.
No.
I didn't know these cousins that well. He bought the fiddle over the phone. I sent it to him. He has it in a glass case. It reminds him of his sister, I'm sure, because of the stories I put with it and her, fact that she played the violin. So that haunted fiddle ended up in the right spot. And it was meant to be in my hand, and it was meant to have that imprint that I had put on it that I think came from my feelings that day, and it meant something to someone else. Now, that's all, it's like, who knows? It's just feelings I have. But a lot of weird things happen, and car accidents happen every time I wanted to play it, and I just had all these weird thoughts, and somehow it directed me to calling this guy and saying, do you want this? And this was the day that his sister who died was born on. There's something weird about that.
I'm jaw-dropped right now.
Me too. I was trying to, yeah. Wow. That's a heavy, lots of information story. Definitely haunted.
I got a lot of stories. I got a lot of stories about experiences. I've lived in a house, I say, when I've been fretting, and with a partner, we heard things run across the floor. We heard noises. I had a house in Belle Cove, Cape Breton, that burnt down eventually. That one day I woke up and I thought I'd saw something. You don't know certain things. I've also had experiences like when I was a kid at Christmas time where I know what I saw in front of me. There's cultural things in Cape Breton about areas in Scottish culture that, don't pick up anybody there even if they look like your mother. It's the devil, There's stuff like that. There's a house that there was an exorcism in the barn after they had gone in and found 50 cows way up on the top railing of this barn, balancing 20 feet in the air with their heads chopped off back in the 40s. There's all kinds of weird stories. For a fiddle player to actually have a fiddle that seems haunted just seems too, there's something not kosher about it. It's like, why are you making up this story, Ashley? I didn't make up this story. It's not a figment of my imagination. The events happened. I got it the moment I got it feeling high and mighty, and named it after her in a moment of spiritually feeling, this is horrible that somebody died. And it ended up back in Trevor Ryan's hands, and so there was a reason that I believe I was given that fiddle.
That fiddle had a death wish. Did you ever trace or go back to try and trace the history of that particular fiddle?
Not at all. I didn't want anything to do with it. After the first weird thing that I've, having had weird experiences, and I felt like, I've experienced some paranormal stuff. I was going, oh, haunted fiddle, come on. It's like the movie The Red Violin or something. This is craziness. I'm like, this can't be the case. But it just kept building. And there was something that was telling me that there's some connection that's not making you feel good about yourself having this. It's not supposed to be with you. And I went to sell it that one morning. Finally, I thought, I'm going to take a cut rate price. I'm going to drop it in a pawn shop. And just out of the blue, the thought came, call this person. And I called him, and it was the day. What are the chances it was her birthday? It's 1 in 365, you could say. But like it was meant to be. So there's something about objects that you put your own feelings into that maybe I haunted it. I don't know why I was feeling that way about it, but there's something that's just not normal and is clearly paranormal about that instrument.
Clearly. I wonder what would have happened if you pawned it. Like if it would have done the same thing to the next person that inherited it.
I know the person who got it now will treasure it because they just like it because it's a beautiful violin that they can look at and maybe want to play. But who knows? It's a good instrument, and it'll continue to grow in value. And 100 years from now, I wonder where that fiddle will be when we're all dead.
I almost want to go see if this guy will sell it. Send it to Ross Allison.
Yes.
He wouldn't sell it to you for all the money in the world, guarantee you.
Oh, my goodness.
I told him if he was ever to sell it again, I sort of, I need money that day. And, I was like, okay, I wanted to sell it. And this is why I was at a pawn shop. I told him, if you ever want to sell it ever in your life, sell it back to me because I know what a beautiful instrument is, just from the fact of the instrument. I think there was something in the sense that it needed to be there with him. If it doesn't stay with him forever, if he ever sells it, I hope he'll sell it back to me.
Well, he probably will. He probably will. Ashley MacIsaac and Merle are here for Ghosts of the Great White North. We've got about 3 minutes to go before we got to go to break at the top of the hour, gentlemen. And in regards to this, have you ever heard of other musicians that you have talked to who have had haunted equipment that they use or instruments?
When I've told the story, once it was a year, 2 years into owning that, I was starting to let the stories out and tell people about it. And I had a couple of people, I don't know who they were or where it was, but I remember some people saying, I had something that was like that. Once or twice I've heard somebody say that. I don't know if they're pros or what. I've never gone that deep into it. I'm not, it's not that I'm insular in my own musical career, but I don't work with people other than the ones I work with. So, things happen and move on. I met somebody somewhere who said that, but I don't know particularly who.
Talking with our music man around here, Ron Thal, formerly of Guns N' Roses, and he was telling us a story where his band, Sons of Apollo, was playing in Plovdiv at the ancient stage that they have there, and the stage is like 500 years old, and he has in his electric guitar, it cannot go out of tune, and his tuner or his top string kept going out of tune. He couldn't figure it out. Then he got shoved on stage. He's never fallen on stage before, and he actually fell down after being shoved on stage. It's unbelievable, some of these things.
Someone didn't like it. Someone didn't like the tone of that instrument. I played in the Acropolis, sitting there looking at the Parthenons, 2004, another ancient area, and, nothing like that happened there. I have had an experience where something touched me before, and I can tell you a great ghost story about a Canada Day that happened to me that's wild. So I believe that people can be actually physically pushed or touched or scratched, so something maybe just didn't like it or was trying to get a message through to them. Maybe that guitar was haunted.
I don't know. He thinks it was a stage. So that he believes there was a ghost on the stage that obviously didn't like the music because this ghost even ripped the sunglasses off the head of the keyboardist Derek Sherinian. So it's a pretty weird story, but things like that happen when you play in these older places. As we've got about 30 seconds to go.
Musicians are trying their best to tap into an area in themselves that's their truest self when they're expressing themselves clearly. And when you watch a Jimmy solo, or you see a great saxophone solo, or you see a Mexican marimba player, somebody that's getting into their cultural side of themselves, their spiritual side, they're expressing inner emotions, and there's no way that ghosts can't not be attracted somehow to those energies. You feel it in an audience. You feel what a musician is giving of themselves back and forth. There's a sharing. So there's some type of energy emitted outside what the speakers and the actual instruments make sounds of. You're giving of yourself. I think that attracts things.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, you hold on. We're going to go to break here at the top of the hour because it is that time. We have 30 minutes left with Merle and Ashley MacIsaac on Ghosts of the Great White North in hour number 3. Then we are going to get to the Thought of the Dave, the SOR Newswire by Captain Shirk, lots more. Spaced Out Radio coming up right after this. All right, gentlemen, we're clear.
Of this last half hour, we should go into your the folklore and stuff.
I'll be right back, guys.
About.
Yeah, there's some interesting things, and in Cape Breton, as I say, the Scottish side of story, they use the word toboggans, talking about ghosts and things, and there's specific animals that show up when people are supposed to be born or die in a certain family. There's, it being mostly Christian, there's lots of stories about black dogs showing up with red fiery eyes and standing up on their hind legs and doing things like that. And then, of course, there's stuff about, and I haven't had any experience with fairies and stuff, but a good old friend of mine just died last week, or 10 days ago. She was a very famous fiddle player. She was in her 90s, and I played a lot with her over the years. When she died, she was famous for having how she actually had got to become a fiddle player. Her whole family as kids learned back in the 1930s to play the fiddle from a bow, from a piece of wood that their father took out of, as she said, a fairy mound, a special piece of wood, and put horsehair on. And so there's there's funny mystical stories like that, right?
Mm-hmm. Wow. I love the fiddle. Part of my heritage is Métis, and I love a lot of the Métis music with the fiddle. It's amazing.
The Métis culture would have, French elements, and of course old Scottish music entering there from, Frobisher Bay and stuff. There's just cultural reasons to bring all kinds of melding there in the Métis to come up with some pretty unique ghost stories, I'm sure.
Yeah. One more question about the fiddle that I was thinking about when you were talking about it. The higher end instruments like that, don't they have serial numbers in the inside that you could track to when it was bought or where it was bought?
This one we could have traced because it just came from this one household, right?
Oh,
so we knew when it was
okay.
made and by whom, and it was in this one dentist or doctor's place in Toronto for years, and then the extended family had it. So there's, it eventually got serial numbered by me in my office to have it insured, and that's why it went to, when it went to the border, they found it on a carnet, it's called, a type of instrument serial number, that they said, hey, this shows that it's belonged to you, how can this person take this across the border? And they told the border people the story, and they're like, we're not going to let you take it in. So it was serial numbered for insurance purposes at one point. I can say that much.
Okay, wow. All right. And yeah, the next half hour will be good. I really want to go. I like the East Coast folklore. I don't know much about it, and the stuff I've actually started recently.
I don't either. I didn't follow it. I grew up watching and listening to like I say, listening to AM radio and going to movies and stuff. So I just know culturally that there's a lot within the fiddle community, the notion of, people drinking around a party and telling stories and that sort of thing. So there's stuff that I've heard. But I think in the entirety of the East Coast, there's so much folklore for people to learn that are stories, that are probably paranormal. And I've never really gone on a hunt for it. There was a guy named Clary Croft who ran a radio program in Nova Scotia for years, and he used to tell some of the stories that were from around the Maritimes. I hear that sometimes. He did some of the transcriptions of Helen Creighton's music, which was a musicologist who went around the Maritime in the early 1900s and collected music. So he was a very big folklorist, and I think there's probably more history down here than anyone would know unless you were an expert in it. And you could probably come on vacations to the Maritimes and go around to haunt the place forever. There's one very famous haunted house that burnt called the Marianne Spooks. That this, there was a fire that happened there, and then there's the burning ship that shows up off of this coast where I'm from on Craignish area, off of Judic, which is supposed to be of a ship that crashed in the late 1800s. Everybody died on it, and it shows up burning right off the water. A lot of people have seen the burning ship. So there's definitely, in each area, I'm sure, around Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, Prince Island, New Brunswick, tons of stories that would make a very interesting paranormal vacation for people.
I think so, yeah. The ghost ships are really neat. I've read a lot of stories about the ghost ships on the East Coast, all the old merchant ships from the 1800s and all that.
I think I may have one night saw it way out in the water. I was 16, 17. It could have been lights. I never saw it the way people have described it when they're close, way close to the shore. That you would be able to distinguish it. And it's been a story for many, many years in this one spot right off of Judic, Cape Breton. And they say that there's a burning ship there. And I'm sure there's been books written about us.
Dude, you are filled with awesome stories, man. Oh, hold on a second here. Block Chick in the chat room is going to watch Coldplay and eat ice cream. What are you talking about? Nobody watches Coldplay. You can't drop You can't drop a Coldplay. You can't drop a Coldplay in my chat room. That's sinful.
I saw Coldplay play in Nova Scotia. They played at the Junos. It's one of the only times I've ever seen a big rock band play. They came down here in the early 2000s, and it was like, wow, they were awesome. Is that a bad thing?
I'm allergic to their music. I'm allergic to it. All right, gentlemen, hold on 1 second here because we're back on in 10 seconds. Thank you to Gorgeous Teresa and Science Bob for the super chats tonight. Give us a thumbs up if you like this show, or a thumbs down, one of the two. Here we go.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for tuning us on in. We welcome back everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live and Revolution Radio. Remember, you can check out all of our archives for free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Oh, Clam, what do you got for us tonight? Onychophagist. Onychophagist is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. For the final time tonight, we introduce our guests from the Paranormal Road Trippers. We have Merle here as he joins me once a month for Ghosts of the Great White North. And we are so proud and so elated to have our special guest tonight, Ashley MacIsaac. He is a world-famous fiddler. He is an award-winning musician. This man has toured the world helping people relax, enjoy, and put smiles on their faces with his wonderful, wonderful music. And tonight, he has been sharing with us some of the freakiest stories he has encountered throughout his life. Mike and Ashley, welcome back.
You didn't call me Merle.
I know. That felt weird rolling off the tongue that way. I'm not going to lie.
Say it again. You know what it is? You called him Mike because you're feeling the love here. We're talking about the love of paranormal, and I won't lie. I haven't spent my time listening to shows on things other than just pops up. So I haven't got to hear your show before now, but I'm hoping in the future you will call him by his proper name. Come on, be nice to Merle.
Merle's his middle name, so I am calling him by his name.
Oh.
Yeah. Very strong middle name. Yep.
Manly. Very manly.
It's been a strong show.
Yeah, It's a very manly name. It's like a boy named Sue.
Take it away, Merle.
No, I want to get into what we were just talking to off the air about the folklore in the community of the East Coast and some of the stories you have from that, the things you've heard.
Well, Eastern Canada, the provinces, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Newfoundland, Prince Edward Island, there's so many shipwrecks. There's so many stories over the years of things. Being from a Scottish part of Cape Breton, we have things like that. There's the burning boat that shows up off of Judic, which is a small community where I went to school. A lot of people talk about that. There's another thing called Marianne Spooks, I believe it was, a house that burnt down near Afton, Nova Scotia. But the old traditional cultural ones, I have personal ones myself that I've experienced. And my dad used to tell me stories about things he experienced of forerunners. That was something that was very prevalent in Scottish and Cape Breton culture as forerunners. And he had one in particular of this famous area that they've now taken that part of the road out finally after 60 years. There was a new part of a road that eventually got the nickname Honeymoon Curve. And he came driving down there one night, and as he drove down the road, he heard the squeal of the tires, he heard like an accident in front of him. He went off the road to the side of the road, went and looked, and he heard a wheel spinning, he heard moaning, he heard everything, but there was nothing there. And sure enough, 2 nights later, a couple was coming from their wedding in Port Hood, came around this new curve, went off the road, died there. It got nicknamed Honeymoon Curve. This type of forerunner and apparition are plentiful in the stories of the Cape Bretoners. And it goes back farther into the old Scottish culture, I think. If you look into the notions of fairies, you look into the notion of leprechauns in Irish culture, that stuff is pretty mystical and fantastical, and I don't have any experience with that. We know of a lady who was famous here who just died, who, her whole family, they were expert violin players, and they say they learned because in the 1930s, their father had found a stick in what they called a fairy mound and made a bow out of it, and they became some of the greatest fiddle players ever. Some of the stuff that interests me, though, are the actual ghost things, because I'm more in tune to that side of it and the scarier side. And, the exorcisms of cows and barns, I mentioned that before. There's just something about old culture. And, many times I just say the oldest culture in Canada as we know it now. Obviously, there's Mi'kmaq and Maliseet First Nations stories that go back way farther that I'm not really aware of, or Métis stuff in the rest of Canada. But the Scottish stuff, it's part of our life here. We grow up hearing it. You hear stories about, somebody playing a square dance back in the 50s on Good Friday, and the priest saying, no, you cannot have a square dance on that night. There's no reason to have music on Good Friday. And the locals saying, we're having it anyway. And then in the middle of the night, all of a sudden, up these 2 huge sets of stairs that came around a turn to the top of this dance hall, which is no longer there, but I used to play there as a kid. In Judic, this dog showed up, and people had, they separated in the hall, and it walked in, a big black dog, and stood up on its hind legs with its red eyes glaring at everybody and didn't make a sound except for the women shrieking. And then it went back down on its forepaws and walked out. And people said that, that was the devil showing up in the form of a dog because they shouldn't have it on Good Friday. Dogs are an old Scottish tradition when it comes to ghost culture. And one that I really love is neighbors of mine, the MacDonald family. They were supposed to be part of a clan of MacDonalds that were notorious for a creature called the Coo-Quas. And the Coo-Quas means the gray dog. Coo being dog. So the Coo-Quas would show up to their family in historical Scottish culture, the 1600s in the Highlands, that sort of thing. Whenever somebody was going to be born or wherever somebody was going to die, this animal would show up in their village. And there was these descendants of these MacDonalds live not far from me. And once when the old man was dying, this gray dog had showed up the week before that nobody knew who it was or who owned the dog, And people were starting to say, that's the Ku Klux. And sure enough, the old fellow died that week. So there's something historically Scottish about some of these things that people believe. But around the entirety of the Maritimes, there's all kinds of mysteries and stories based on shipwrecks and agony and things that happened over the years. I think it would be a great place for people to come take a paranormal vacation and check out the haunted places, because I'm sure there's lots of pamphlets that will tell you about it somewhere.
Now, you told us earlier about your first encounter with a ghost. I want to touch on, and what is the more recent experience you've had that you'd want to share?
There's been a number. You know, I'll tell you the most frightening story that I've ever had as a ghost experience. It happened in Windsor, Ontario, my home on Riverside Drive. It was around 2015. It would have been around 2013. Again, because I moved out that following fall for a while to Peterborough, Ontario. I was sitting in my living room. It was around 11 o'clock. I had a pizza earlier that night, and was sitting there, and I was smoking a joint. I was relaxing. I don't drink alcohol, rarely. I ate a pizza. I smoked a joint. I'm sitting watching the boob tube, and my partner at the time, my husband, was sitting on the computer playing a computer game. And I thought, I'm still hungry. So I got up and I went to the fridge, probably had munchies, and looked in the fridge. There was nothing. I thought, I got a thing of beans in my cupboard. So I'm going to make these beans like my nanny used to make. And I pictured my nanny as I was making these. And the reason I was doing this was because my Uncle Murray, my mother's brother, had taken sick the week before. He went to the hospital, and they said, his wife was an RN, and she said, we should go to the hospital. There's something not right. They told him when he went in, you got 6 weeks to live, Murray. Now, Murray was the healthiest guy in the family. He was into baseball. He didn't eat a lot of crappy food. He coached. He golfed all the time. The rest of us were smokers, or, we do whatever. Smoke a lot of cigarettes, eat a lot of fatty food. He was not a family member we expect was going to die at a fairly young age, all of a sudden being diagnosed with terminal cancer. He got 6 weeks. So there's a lot of shock going on through the family. I'm standing in my kitchen. I'm making these beans, thinking of my grandmother, my nanny, his mom, and thinking how, she used to stand in front of the stove with a cigarette in her mouth. She was an Acadian lady. She'd hang it out her mouth with a cup of carnation milk in her tea, and people would be talking, and she'd turn around, she'd say something quick and smart and go on with her thing. She was just a very smart lady. So thinking about her as I'm making these, and I'm saying to my partner, hey, do you want some of these beans? He goes, I don't want any of that crap, that East Coast food. Okay, whatever. So I come back to the couch. I sit on the couch. I'm sitting there. The dog is on the floor. I'm watching TV. And by the way, that poor dog, we're going to have to put him down tomorrow or the next day at some point because he's getting very ill. He was a great dog. So I'm at the point where I'm really into this set of beans. I'm eating them, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, I wish I had Nanny's bread. And I'm thinking of Murray, and I'm thinking about the family. I hadn't called him yet. I didn't know what to say. And I say to my husband, I go, ex-husband now, I say, who left after a major crazy ghost experience in my house that same night that the UFOs pictures were taken in Prince Edward Island, and I had to fly back from PEI to Windsor, Ontario, because he was so petrified of what took place. He'd never experienced anything like it, that he left me. So that's another story for another day. So I'm sitting there, he's, sort of just playing his game, and I go, oh, I wish I had my grandma's bread. It was so good. She made the best bread. And he goes, oh, no, my grandmother makes the best bread. And I said, no, my nanny's was the best. And as I said that, I stopped and I thought to myself that I'll never have Nanny's bread again. She's dead. And I yelled. I screamed a blood-curdling scream because I looked down and my right arm, came out in the deepest scratch marks, like I had just been punctured. And I have a picture of it. I'd never had Facebook. I instantly jumped up and said, I got to take pictures. I got to start Facebook. I'll send you the picture. You can put it on your site if you want, Dave. And the feeling I had was like it was burning. And I looked, and all of a sudden these scratch marks came out. and they were right to the point of blood. Now, I'd seen The Exorcist where, the writing comes on the stomach, but I've never had anything like that happen. I once felt a touch on the back of my neck when I was fretting, and I thought it possibly was one of my 2 dead cousins. It felt like it was either one that was helping me through a moment of pensiveness. But I never had anything this dramatic that was right in front that had proof. I screamed. I felt it burn. I put the plate of beans down. I'm freaking out. I said, I'm petrified. I'm scared in this house. I had already thought that I'd heard a little girl going, giggling up in this upstairs attic where I'd moved to this house at one point. My partner had been having sleep paralysis, where he woke up, thought there was something on him, couldn't move. He was dealing with that. And then this experience happens, as I say to myself, my grandmother's dead. And, Nanny, she had big fingernails, like fake press-on ones. So my thoughts were, okay, obviously it's her, right? But I don't know who it was, but I was scared. And by now it's midnight. I'm taking pictures. I'm starting Facebook page. And I say, listen, if anything else happens in here within the next couple of hours, we're out and we're leaving and we're gone. I'd owned a house before that I woke up and I saw someone I thought was hanging. It could have been just half asleep waking up. I put that house for sale. It didn't sell. It eventually burnt down. So I was scared about this house now that I was in. What the hell happened? But I stayed up another couple of hours. I went to sleep. I got up at 6 in the morning. I was ready to call my uncle then. Called him and he answered. And I said, Murray, I haven't spoke to you, but I know that you're not well and I want to call you and I didn't know what to say. And he said, thank you for calling, Ashley. I said, Murray, I'm going to call you now because I have a crazy story to tell you about something that happened last night. And I'm just going to tell you and just listen to me. And I told him. And I said, I was thinking of Nanny. And I said that, she's dead. And this happened. And he goes, silent on the other end of the phone. He goes, well, it's like 8 o'clock in the morning now, wherever it was. I said, Ashley, thank you. I said, I've been praying to Mom for a week. I'm scared to death. I'm so scared to die. I'm praying for her to come to somebody in the family. I said, I'm not scared anymore. And I was like, well, I don't know what it all meant, Murray, but I just had to tell you. And Murray went on to live almost a full another year after that. I don't think he was as scared of dying anymore. He got to see another grandkid born. He got to live through another Christmas, I believe. I think to that long. And the fear of dying and the fear of death, whatever was that in me that night, I told a ghost story to somebody, and he found life in that. So that's the most recent experience I had. And I was going to say, I'll send you a picture of it. I've never had anything like that happen. I've never been scratched before. I've been touched, I thought. I never had something come right out that I could actually take a picture of it. I look at my right arm and I remember it. And that's my most recent ghost story.
That is amazing. Had your grandmother ever come to you before in spirit form?
Nope.
Since?
Nope. And maybe it wasn't her. Maybe it was something else. It seemed like I was talking about or thinking about the dead in my head. And so maybe something else attracted itself to me at that point. I don't know if it was her. But whatever it wasn't me. My dog was on the floor. I wasn't going to scratch myself viciously in my arm while I'm holding a fork with beans and the plate in the other hand. Like, I'm eating the beans, thinking this, and going, like I screamed with the pain, and then I looked at my arm. I don't know what it was.
How many scratches was it?
I'll send you the picture. It's like 3 fingernails going up that sort of spread out, and then it goes down the other side. There's 2, and it's like a scratch. It does a little direction, and then it looks like a third one. So it looks like 3 scratches came out instantly from 3 fingers.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see that photo. That sounds...
I'm going to send it to you right now. I have it in my phone because it's the one thing. I had phone pictures of like other things, like an orb I thought I saw one night, but that stuff doesn't show up good on phones. This is a direct picture of something scratching the crap out of me that wasn't there when I'm thinking about my dead grandmother and a house that I thought possibly might have been haunted before that, an old house I lived in. Dave, I'm going to send you an attachment right now if I can find it in my phone.
That works for me. Hey, Ashley, as we only got about...
Make sure I send you the right one.
Sure. We only got about 5 minutes left with you tonight, my friend. And, I mean, for somebody who, has so much paranormal activity going on, do you ever wonder if it's you that's attracting all of this?
No, I don't wonder at all. I think it is.
Why do you think that's happening?
Well, like sort of expressed before, musicians try to express themselves in certain ways. They're tuned into their emotions. And when things are very intense, for somebody who uses logic, which is a musician, and uses emotions logically, like mathematically, to express them, when things get very difficult and frustrating, I think there's a certain pensive anger, stress, something that the brain is not knowing how to function then. And for some reason, I think that some of that stuff, be it from a relationship issue, a career issue, whatever it is, some of that stuff I think that I've experienced as an adult, maybe it's attracted to that energy at that point. I can't explain that as a kid other than, like I said, I was going through these notions of what it meant to be gay in the world and what people are really like when it comes to that Christmas ghost experience. UFOs, before that, don't know. Is there a reason that one person would be particularly attracted or would attract things more than the other? I don't think so. I think everybody could if you're tapped into a certain belief system, maybe. That's probably why a lot of people think it's just colloquialisms and rural people in Mexico and Thailand, and people who talk about ghosts are, just a little bit, folky or not as astute. But I got my doctorates. In music, I'm a pretty well-versed person in careers and finances and jobs and life, and I don't consider myself a crazy person. If there's a reason that it's attractive to certain times in my life, I think that's probably scientifically explainable. We just don't have the science yet to explain it. And when it comes to, there's nothing special is the point. I think, if a person thought they were special and that's why they were getting it, okay, no. I think it's people either have an attuned ability, like they say animals do sometimes, dogs, or younger children are more open. Maybe musicians are more open. There's something in a personality trait that I can't put my finger on, but I would say that anybody else who hasn't experienced paranormal events, don't just assume that somebody's nuts because they have.
Good advice. Merle?
I'm thinking next time you're on the West Coast, you should come out on an investigation with us and experience the investigation side of the paranormal.
I'd love to.
We'll take
I've never done it. Maybe that's the problem, though. I might be so happy doing it. That nothing's interested me. What I'm getting at is that I think there's strength of energy that comes off of people with deep emotions and often with frustrated emotion. Maybe that's what attracts things.
100% think emotions and intentions and energy is what attracts things, especially with music. Like you play with a lot of emotion and feeling, and I think that is a beacon to attract other energies to you.
Well, you're not necessarily, playing any music when you're just sitting in your living room and all of a sudden you get scratched. I'm sending you these pictures right now, Dave. Or, that you see a sea monster. Like, I don't know. I consider myself lucky, I got to say. I will really consider myself lucky if I ever see a Bigfoot. I'll end with that.
Well, coming to the West Coast, Merle and I are going to show you around some hauntings. We're going to take you to a couple of Bigfoot sites. And who knows, maybe the aliens will show up. You just never, ever know.
I just sent you, Dave, I just sent you the pictures. If you can show them somehow on your website or whatever you're using there for YouTube with your phone, you'll see it pretty clearly what happened to me that night around Canada Day back 7 years ago.
Got him. I will put them up later for everybody on Twitter and our YouTube feed to see. But, Ashley, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to come on Spaced Out Radio and share your stories. It's been an absolute highlight for me to have you on here, and I know for Merle as well. We appreciate it, and hopefully we get to do it again.
It's a great pleasure. I have lots of other, traditional ideas to talk about when it comes to folklore. And as a Nova Scotian, we all know about dimes showing up after somebody dies. for months afterwards. The blue nose coin shows up. It's happened to me in Ontario. There's weird things that I could talk about, but it's been an honor to be part of your show and to feel comfortable enough to speak this long about the paranormal, something I've never done, even speaking about fiddle music before in an interview that long. And I appreciate the opportunity so much, and I hope your listeners had fun. I certainly did.
Oh, we will definitely do it again. We will stay in touch. Merle, we'll talk to you next month, my friend.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ashley.
Ciao.
Coming up next, we have the SOR Newswire and the Thought of the Dave. Stay tuned as Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. Wow, what a show. What a show. We'll be back.
Dave, thanks very much.
Oh, Ashley, we're going to have a little clap here for you right now. That was awesome.
I'm going to go in because, as I say, I'm in Nova Scotia and I'm in isolation, so I've just been sitting outside for these few hours to get some air, but I got to go back to my hidden room in the corner at 2:30 in the morning, and to all you listeners out there in the YouTube land, I'm going to probably join you for a bit and watch you online, too.
All right, buddy. You take care, okay?
Ciao. Bye.
Good night. Hey, Merle, how awesome was that?
It was a strong show, Dave.
That was amazing. Absolutely amazing.
We should have him back. He's got a lot to talk. He's got lots to talk about, and I think there's more. There's more to this.
Oh,
there's
yeah.
Lots more stories.
I'm blown away right now. You always hope for a good show, okay? You always hope for a good show, but this one knocked it out of the park, man. This one knocked it out of the park.
Couldn't have gone better.
Yeah, fantastic. Absolute fantastic show. I'm pretty happy with that. And we will talk to you next month, my friend.
We got a demonologist next month.
Do we? Oh, well.
We do.
Well, look at that. Look at that, Merle.
Already booked.
Perfect.
I really enjoyed tonight. It was fun. Actually, it was good. Can't wait to investigate.
Yeah, you definitely, when he comes out on the West Coast, man, I'll even drive down to meet up with you for that one, because there's no way in hell that you're going to get to investigate it without me there. That's going to be awesome.
Sounds good.
All right, brother.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. It's Merle, everybody. Merle. Coming in large and strong for another edition of Ghosts of the Great White North. God, I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as I did. All right. That was an amazing, amazing show. And, I mean, you never know how a show is going to go, okay? And in talking to Ashley leading up to this show, I knew it was going to be good. I didn't even expect it to be this good. And I'm serious. I did not expect this show to be this good. And I would honestly rank this up there as a top 10 show that I have done. Honestly. Not just because he's famous and he's a world-class musician. That has really nothing to do with it. Just the fact of the way he elaborated on his stories, he painted a picture, he talked about his eyewitness accounts and his personal experiences and what he's learned in kind of going for it. I mean, this is a guy, he's not an investigator, he's not a researcher, he's just had some weird stuff happen to him. And here we are getting the benefit of listening to this. This was amazing radio. Amazing radio. Absolutely amazing radio tonight. We all got a treat here. We all got a treat here tonight, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I have. That's all I could say, is I hope you enjoyed this as much as I have, because I am wowed. I think we can keep him, Bomber. I think we did enough to make him not only a fan of the show, but to make him a potential listener? Maybe? He wants a good alien probing. Yes, that was a highlight. Hey, Burrito, how you doing, man? That was fantastic. I just feel really, really good about this one. I really do. You know, after the hard 10 days we have been putting in to have this show come off the way it has, hopefully we can end it strong and that I don't screw it up here. But amazing. Absolutely amazing. I'm so happy right now. So happy. Yeah, I got Ashley. I mean, I beat Corrins for once. Thanks, Chuck. I know you're listening. I appreciate all of your hard work in helping us get the studio going, my friend. You are amazing, and you are a mentor, and I love you, man. Thank you. All right. Here we go. Thank you to Ann, Teresa, and Science Bob for the super chats tonight. Really appreciate it. Here we're going to go kick off the news, everyone.
Spaced Out Radio.
We rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. I'm the guy behind the microphone with the magical hair and the scruffy beard. Hope you are all enjoying yourself tonight. I want to remind you that if you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Speaking of the news. The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire at the back end of every show, where we get to the weird, the strange, the wacky, and sometimes the downright scary. Oh yeah, this one kind of freaks me out a little bit, not gonna lie. In a year that seemingly just won't end, perhaps it's now not so surprising that NASA's newly discovered asteroid called 2020 SW will give Earth a not so socially distant pass. Discovered only on September 18th in Tucson, Arizona, the school bus-sized asteroid, which is estimated to be somewhere between 15 and 30 feet in diameter, is expected to graze past our planet's surface with about 13,000 miles of breathing room. This falls well below the orbit of our geostationary weather satellites, which are located at about 22,000 miles above Earth's surface. Oh yeah, this could cause some havoc here. Its closest approach to Earth will occur at 7:12 a.m. Eastern Time this coming Thursday, as it skirts over the southeastern Pacific Ocean near Australia and New Zealand. Its approach will be so close to Earth that our gravity will alter its speed and trajectory, according to earthsky.org. There are a large number of tiny asteroids like this one, and several of them approach our planet as close as this several times a year, says Paul Chodas, director of the Center of Near-Earth Object Studies at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Southern California. Fortunately, the asteroid is not on an impact trajectory with Earth, and if it were, our atmosphere would likely break it apart, creating a bright meteor known as a fireball. Although we've received a 6-day heads up on this week's arrival of the asteroid 2020 SW, no one saw the SUV-sized asteroid called 2020 QG coming. It made history last month by becoming the closest non-impacting asteroid on record. In the early hours of August 16th, the asteroid passed within 1,800 miles of Earth's surface over the Indian Ocean and was only discovered after zipping past our planet. Its small size, estimated to be between 10 and 20 feet, widely played a role in our ability to spot it coming. The record-breaking close approach was a galactic equivalent of a bullet grazing one's skin. But fortunately, the small size of the asteroid would have likely resulted in it breaking apart, even if its trajectory had lined up with Earth. A man caught on surveillance video is suspected of stealing cat blood from a veterinary clinic in Florida. Oh, Florida man. You never, ever disappoint, do you? Yeah, the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office posted pictures showing the man who walked up to the door of the Anastasia Cat Clinic on September 17th. The man was seen touching and inspecting an Antec Diagnostics blood box before leaving the area, sheriff's officials said. About 20 minutes later, though, a truck seen in the parking area and a man wearing the same clothing walked up to the clinic and took the box. The box contained 4 vials of cat blood. The vehicle then left the area. The box contained the blood vials, amounted to about $600 in losses for the clinic, investigators said. Who steals cat blood? Who steals that? Is this some new fandangoed injection thing that people are doing in Florida now? What, was meth not enough? No? Do we have to go back to Don Johnson's 80s and Miami Vice and get back into cocaine or something? I don't know. Cat blood? Come on. Who does that? It's terrible. All right. You know, we talked with Ashley earlier in the show about why you don't go into the ocean, because there is sea monsters there. Well, here's another reason. A husband put his pregnant wife in jeopardy after she had to rescue him during a shark attack in the Florida Keys. At the time of the accident, 30-year-old Andrew Eddy was on a private boat with his wife Margot and her family near Marathon, Florida, according to the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. Upon immediately after entering the water Sunday morning, Eddy was attacked by a shark. The sight of the shark's dorsal fin and blood in the water prompted Dukes Eddy, his wife, to dive off their boat and pull Eddy to safety. She's like, "No way, honey, you ain't going out this way after putting a child in my womb. No way." Eddy was driven by boat to shore, where he was airlifted to Ryder Trauma Center at Jackson Memorial Hospital in Miami. As of this past Tuesday, his condition was not immediately clear, but Eddy sustained a severe injury to his shoulder, the report said. His wife didn't immediately respond to a comment comment request, that is. Several other witnesses from other boats were snorkeling in the area where the incident occurred. According to the report, boaters told officials that they spotted a giant bull shark that morning, estimated to be about 10 feet long. Yep, that's a man-eater. That is a complete man-eater. There were no other reported injuries, nor was there any fishing or chumming activity where the group was snorkeling. According to the University of Florida's International Shark Attack File, Monroe County has recorded 17 unprovoked shark bites since 1882. In comparison, Volusia County in northern Florida, better known as the shark bite capital of the world, I know where I'm never traveling, has experienced 312. Gavin Naylor, program director at the file, says that it was atypical for a shark to be this aggressive. No, it wasn't. You are in the ocean. You are potential food. We have had a shark bite in Monroe. We haven't had one for about a decade, he says. Based on witness descriptions, Naylor said that the shark was a monster size. Of course it was, but could not confirm whether it was a tiger or bull shark. Now, Sheriff Rick Ramsey praised first responders, including his wife, who valiantly rescued her own safety and risked her own safety to save her husband. This is a very rare medical crisis for the Florida Keys, but everyone came together, including those witnesses on the boat to 911 communicators, to all of our emergency responders, in order to ensure this victim received life-saving care. Naylor advised beachgoers to follow common sense and avoid waters if there are any shark sightings. How about just stay out of the ocean, people? It's beautiful. Let the sharks, let the whales, let the manatees, everything have their ocean. They're good there. All right? They're good there. We don't need to be food for them. Oh, people just won't learn. All right? Here's an interesting one. There's a magic about a naturally forming circle. There's so-called fairy circles are a source of wonder and fantasy, a seemingly mystical moment in nature when the randomness of a grassy plain is interrupted by geometric patterns in the grass. Fairy circles are commonly found in arid places like Australia and Namibia in Africa. But these otherworldly phenomena can now be in fact explained by mathematical reasoning. Yes, of course, a new scientific study explains grasses that create fairy circles do so to adapt to dry conditions and make them more favorable for life to thrive, researchers report. In this new way, the vegetation is able to engineer its own ecosystem to maximize its potential for survival. Using drone-mounted cameras, spatial statistics, and computer mapping, the researchers behind the new study scoured the Australian outback for evidence of this phenomena in action. Well, they found it. They tracked whether the plants called the Triodia grasses were thriving by assigning them to vitality status, ranging from a high to low. What they found suggests a curious mathematical underpinning to how these circles arise. Imagine that. An underpinning. Yes. The results confirm a model originally developed by a mathematician and computer scientist, Alan Turing. The Turing pattern. That's Alan Turing. The theory explains in certain systems, random disturbances and something called a reaction diffusion mechanism can strongly play a pattern in structures of nature. The same model has been used to describe other striking patterns like stripes on a zebrafish and the shape of a shark's scales. Now researchers say that we can apply this same model to the majestic circles found in the Australian outback. Yeah. It's aliens. It's gnomes. It's little people. None of this science stuff. Come on. Where's the woo in that? Stephen Getson, researcher at the University of Göttingen, a study leader as well, explains why pinning Turing's model to fairy circles is unique. He says the intriguing thing is that the grasses are actively engineering their own environment by forming a symmetrically shaped space patterns. The vegetation begins and benefits for the additional runoff water provided by the large fairy circles, and so keeps the arid ecosystem functional even in very harsh, dry conditions. Oh, isn't that nice? The fairies are watering their lawn, and they say they've figured it out by math. An ordinary workday quickly turned into a rescue mission after a bridge inspector spotted a stranded dog 120 feet above the Mississippi River. Oh, the poor puppy. Oh, it looks so scared, too, in the pictures. Ryan Nadaluk was working alongside his crew this past Sunday when Craig Jenkins, one of his bridge inspection engineers, noticed something out of the ordinary on the bridge at Natchez Valedia. Craig called over the radio. "I see a dog," Nadaluk said. "We've never seen a live dog before on the bridge at this point, so at first I thought it was a raccoon. After a second look, it was most definitely a dog that somehow managed to get stuck on a lower chord of the bridge." Nadaluk described the pup as shy at first, but she eventually warmed up after realizing he was there to help. The dog found herself stranded above the Mississippi River, which is really sad. Weird how she got there. They do not know. Nadaluk, who is vice president and lead engineer of the company Stantec, has been inspecting and climbing bridges for more than 23 years. He also spends his spare time mountain climbing, so when it comes to rescuing the pup, he didn't even think twice about it. "I go camping and climbing all over the world with my family and my dog. I have had to bring my own dog across rivers and even haul them up peaks, and over time, I've just figured out how to make makeshift harnesses." Little did he know such an experience would come in handy. After alerting police, Nadaluk jumped into action for the impromptu rescue. He used a piece of cord that he fashioned into a harness to make sure she would be secure. His company tweeted a video of the rescue and described the moment as being in the right place at the right time. Nadaluk said he climbed down onto the bridge deck and placed the dog in the harness. The video then shows him working with Officer John Fenley to pull the little girl up to safety. He says he was concerned that the pup may have been injured, but those fears were quickly subsided. When we got her up, she just started walking immediately and wagging her tail, and you could tell that she was really happy. Good for this man. Good for this man. Feel good story there. Love those. Here's a stinky one, though. I don't know where Shirky Poo here is finding all of these, but we're going to run with it. Firefighters in Britain said crews from 3 towns spent 3 hours extinguishing the flames from a blaze that started with a 22-ton pile. 22-ton pile. Yes, you heard that right. Of chicken manure. Yes, the chickie poo went up in flames. Suffolk Fire and Rescue Services said crews from Leiston, and Stowmarket responded to the property near Mendlesham when the foul-smelling foul droppings erupted in flames. Others said the officers took about 3 hours to extinguish the stinky blaze. No injuries were reported. However, the chickens seemed to have a little bit of laughter. Experts say the chemicals in the poultry manure can cause spontaneous combustions when a pile becomes too large to allow heat to escape. That is one stinky situation. 96-year-old Pennsylvania woman has become the first person at her local bowling alley to roll a no-tap 300. Meaning she knocked down at least 9 pins in each frame. Wouldn't that be 10 pins? If it's a 300? Sarah Lyons, who will be 97 on November 30th, was bowling at Kennedy Lanes in McKees Rocks when she finished her game with a score of 300, becoming the first person to do so at the alley. I had all strikes in a row, not an open frame at all, she says. Lyons said she'd been bowling since 27 years old. This marked her first 300 score. That's hard, she said. It's hard for a woman to do that, especially seniors. Lyons said she focused on her family, keeps her health healthy, and she stays alert. It's how I feel inside. I just have to keep going, Lyons said. I won't give up. I won't give up no matter how old I am. The bowling alley congratulated her in their Facebook post, calling her quite the pistol. Congratulations on your 300, Sarah, the post read. My goodness, I can barely score 100 on bowling. I suck at bowling. She's rolling a 300. A Tennessee boy who addressed a message in a bottle to the tooth fairy after losing his teeth at a South Carolina beach received a reply in the mail from a generous stranger, his mother said. Ashley Hamrick of Knox County said her son Lucas was visiting Myrtle Beach with his family in June when he lost his tooth while boogie boarding and it disappeared into the surf. Hamrick helped Lucas write a letter to the tooth fairy explaining the incident, and the note was put inside a bottle and thrown into the ocean. The package contained a letter addressed to Lucas and signed by the tooth fairy. I hope you had a fun vacation at the beach. I'm so sorry that you lost your tooth in the surf. I got your message in the bottle, so I wasn't worried about not finding it right away, the letter reads. Good news, mermaids found your tooth and gave it to me. The mermaid wanted you to have this shark tooth to remember your vacation. Brush your teeth 2 times every day to keep it pretty for me. Flossing is good too. Stay safe, the anonymous person wrote. How warm is that? That is awesome. Hamrick said the package contained a shark tooth necklace for Lucas, but did not include any information that might identify the kind stranger. Well, it's because it's a tooth fairy. It's supposed to be magical. Wish I could find the person who found our message in a bottle and tell them how appreciative we are of their gift, their kindness, and their love to spread the tooth fairy cheer. That is very, very awesome. Very, very awesome. And finally, oh yes, finally, authorities in Michigan County are investigating reports of a crocodile or similar animal lurking in a local river. And the creature may have been caught on camera. Macomb County Animal Control said 3 separate reports were made of a reptile swimming in the Clinton River in Harrison Township. No word if it was Hillary. With the first call coming in a few weeks ago and the most recent sighting reported just this week. The caller said the animal appeared to be a crocodile or a caiman or a Hillary or something close to the larger reptile cousins. The mystery animal was reported to be about 3 feet long. Animal Control Officer Jeff Randazzo said investigators have not been able to yet verify these reported sightings. Thought of the Dave happens every night at this time, where we ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air because we love the audience participation around here. Today's Thought of the Dave is as follows. Which famous person's paranormal supernatural story would you like to hear? Start off on Twitter with Katera. I'm convinced Al Gore is an experiencer. I'd like for him to talk about it. Rano, he wants to hear Dan Aykroyd stories. So does John, because he is shockingly knowledgeable. He has had interesting experiences. He's quite funny, and he's Canadian. Yes, of course. Always got to throw in the Canadian thing there. Jason, although she passed, I would love the opportunity to spend the day with Lorraine Warren. The things she must have seen and experienced would be truly astonishing. Let's go over to Jeff. He has a man crush on Merle. He goes, Merle, I want to investigate with Merle. A legend in his own, always has good stories. Side note, really looking forward to tonight's show. I hope you enjoyed it, Jeff. Thank you. Jim wants to meet up with Dan Aykroyd as well because he's been a big believer for decades. Heidi, John Lennon said he saw UFOs. It would have been very interesting to hear his accounts. Also, there was UFOs sighted during the filming of Close Encounters, so would like to hear about those as well. They were sighted during the filming in Gary, Indiana, I believe, she says. Gabe, he wants Mel from Mel's Whole Story. It's because he never gets sick of it. Nicole, I'm going to butcher this name, and I apologize. Kai Mooj? Kai Mooj? He is probably the most renowned physical medium working today, and I would love to hear more about his origin story. I've heard he's been practicing since a young age. Lee, the Enfield poltergeist always gives me the goosebumps. Corey wants to hear from John Ramirez, born into a family of Satanists, and was a high-ranking warlock, then turned to God, and was attacked for nights on end. Oh, Corey, that sounds like a very, very good booking for this show. Let's try and get John Ramirez. That would be great. Davey, I want to know all about the June 1977 briefing that left President Jimmy Carter in tears. Ron, the Ukrainian watermelon. I would love to hear all the stories about the ghosts in the White House. Mary has my choice, and we're going to end it right here. Sammy Hagar. Oh, yes. When love walks in, contact is all it takes. Isn't that right? Isn't that right? Well, maybe we have time for a couple more. Vivian, anyone, as long as it's the truth. And Catherine gets the final word because we're going to be out by then. Mother Teresa, I would love to hear her speak of the miracles she witnessed. Thank you to everybody participating in the Thought of the Day. We will do it all again tomorrow night on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you to Captain Shirk for a wonderful yet scary session of the SOR Newswire, which can be found on our website. And, of course, to Merle from Paranormal Road Trippers and Ashley MacIsaac for joining us on Ghosts of the Great White North. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everybody participating in our chat rooms on Spreaker, YouTube, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Facebook, Space Travelers Club at our website, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But tomorrow, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we have room for them too. Good night. That's a good show, everyone. Very strong show. Very strong show. Oh, yeah. Oh, I love that one. Love that one. That was massive. Massively good show for us tonight. Massively good show. Good job, everyone. We don't need that anymore. Let's close that off. Let's get rid of those. I know you're out there somewhere. That was an epic, epic show. Fuck yeah, we did well tonight, people. We did very, very well tonight. Very happy with this one. Very happy. This kind of show that you literally say to your friends, let's go out for burgers and beer. Let's do some burgers and beer after this. You know what I'm saying? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Very, very happy with this. Hold on, let's send Ashley a message. All right, very happy. Very, very happy. Fuck yeah, Roy, take us home. He's like, come on, Captain, take us home, you dirty bitch. All right, I'll be right back, guys, while this is downloading. Bear with me. All right. Old Davy's back. Guess who's back? Back again. Davy's back. Tell a friend. Guess who's back? Guess who's back? Guess who's back? I've created a monster because nobody wants to see Davy no more. All right. Just loading this up. Hold on, because I can't see the chat room without turning this way. Yeah, that's the old. That's the old. That's what you call the Eventide. She's a beast. Alright, what do we gotta do here? Alright, let's go like this. Alright, let's edit this thing, shall we? I guess we really don't need that anymore. Probably should leave it on though. Technically, we are still broadcasting. Alright, let's go like this. Let's set these up. This is 0923. Alright, that's the first part. That's the first part of the show. Timber Hunter's in here as well. Hide the... Well, hide the... Get rid of that.
The public, there's all kinds of, one would say, I guess, straight venues. You know, things was on the side.
And keeping an eye on the chat rooms, Dave, for questions.
News. We're going to have a good time here on Spaced Out Radio. Second half hour coming up right after this.
Questions.
Do-do-do-do. Going to get going here. All right, I want to say thanks to everybody who is giving us a thumbs up and beside me here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, there's people like that where I'm from in Cape Breton. Like when I was a kid, we'd go to the woods.
I'd go. I'm okay with that. I'll be the science experiment. Second here, boys. Comes up here.
sex life, we have our brain. Probably people wouldn't expect it to go, but all the Sasquatch.
If female aliens wanted to abduct me, I'd go. I'm okay with that. I'll be the science experiment.
What gay Canadian?
There over the last couple of... All right. Yeah, Kink with Aliens here on Spaced Out Radio. I'm rattled. I am Del Bomber here. Yeah, that's good for number 2.
Are actually haunted.
Oh, yeah.
100%. You can feel it, yeah.
Ashley, 30 seconds left. My YouTube crowd needs 2 questions quickly answered here. What's your thoughts on eating breakfast foods for... right after this.
Once it was can't rock band play.
Or a thumbs down, one of the two. Here we go.
From a bow in this, I don't know particularly. So there was a reason that I believe I was. Guys, what comes across the Pacific?
Senator Ross Allen was playing in Plovdiv at the
or touched
glasses off the head of the keyboardist Derek Sherinian. So, I mean, it's a pretty weird story. Places, as we've got about 30 seconds to go.
Musicians are trying their best to tap into it.
Nope. I'm going to go to right there. I missed the cue. It's okay. We can make it happen. Almost here, guys. Almost here. Remember, you gentlemen, hold on 1 second here.
Say that there's a burning ship there, and I'm sure there's been books written.
That was such an amazing show. Happy right now. So happy. Meet you up. Be back.
Dave, thanks very much.
Oh, Ashley, we're Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio. Oh, there we go. All right, give me 2 seconds here, everyone. So we got that. All right, we got all that. So let's just open this up. Hi, gorgeous Marie. Kimberly, how did you enjoy your first night in our chat room? Now, for those in our chat room, just to let you know about the lovely and talented Kimberly, she actually, you know how on Tuesday nights we do our show where we hook up with Vancouver on the shift. That's how she found out about our show, and she's trying our chat room for the first time tonight. And she is, I think, enjoying herself. So thank you, Kimberly, and I hope that you enjoy yourself enough to become a regular. Let's give a round of applause for Kimberly being a newbie to our chat room tonight. I don't know why, but my glasses are killing me behind my ears tonight. You will notice, add gnome. I have a gnome right up here, right beside the alien heads. All right, everyone. You guys need to get your 6-digit verification codes ready. If you don't mind, we would greatly appreciate that. Get your 6-digit codes ready. And here we go. Your 6-digit code for tonight is 245023. 245023. Use it wisely, everyone. Just so you can verify whatever it is you need to verify. Where did my YouTube channel go? Cancel. Let's start here. Okay. Let's go here. Did I accidentally click off my... You gotta be kidding me. Did I do that? I must have. I think I accidentally clicked off my YouTube here. Well, at least my YouTube screen. Hold on. We'll get it back. Oh, it's amazing. I get an ad. There we go. I'll check right now. Kimberly Jackshaw. I'll even give you a follow back. How about that? You have to accept my follow back, though, apparently. Because you're on lockdown on yours. Adnome, how much have you been drinking toilet water again? Be honest. I know you're not from Nova Scotia, but the Maritime Provinces. I thought you were. Okay, where the hell are you? Which province are you from? I wonder if I will get. I wonder if she will accept my my Instagram request. The big question of the night, will Kimberly Jackshaw accept my Instagram request? Oh, apparently she did. Let's check this out. Look at that. There it is. She actually accepted my request. Wow. Very cool. Very cool. One more to do. Let's just make sure we got this done. Oh, you're in Burnaby. Oh, very cool. I went to university, well, BCIT in Burnaby. Long time ago. Back in the days when you couldn't say booger on the air. Alright, let's open the output folder. See where we stand with everything. There we go. Put those in there. Let's get the old feed going here. We'll remove all of these. Close that out. Close that out. Now I can see the chat room. Bomber's in Ontario. She's near Thunder Bay, probably. Bombshell Bomber looks like somebody who would be from Thunder Bay. Dave, your hair looks extra pineapple-y right now. It's awesome. Yeah, it's getting long again. I gotta shave the sides so that way the goes like flatter on the. Growing it back though. Growing it back. By the way, Ashley messaged me, said, thank you guys for... I'll read what he said here. I thanked him for coming on the show. And he said, I felt so comfortable. My pleasure. Thanks so much. And give my regards to Merle and all of your listeners. What a classy dude. Classy dude. Oh, man, this is a top... I said top 10 show earlier. I'd say it's a top 6 show that we've done here. Hi, Minister Elaine. We're doing good. We're doing good. Now I have to look up who Michael McDonald is. Oh. He had good hair, too. Excuse me. From the Doobie Brothers, Steely Dan. I see. Good hair on him. Thurston Howell the Third. Where's Lovey? Lovey. Lovey. What a good show. I'm worn out. Not gonna lie. I'm worn out. This was a good one. We're almost done with the tinkering. We just got to get rid of that tick, 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 tick thing. We'll figure that part out. Because I can see it. I can see you, you bastard. Don't know what's causing it. We'll figure it out. Nope, can't do it. Not a fan, Marie. We've had this discussion before. Hi, Eva. Solid radio tonight. Solid radio. I will. I can do that, Eva. Or pardon me, Minister Elaine. Bomber, see your last comment. I only live in Ontario now, but don't see it as my home. I'm from the East Coast Maritimes, and that will always be my home till I move back one day. Hey, Mitchell, darling, tell a joke. Larry, how are you? I'm not a funny person. I don't know any jokes. I have 0 gnomes in my pocket right now. What would Dr. Seuss book do? I hear Tim Hortons here's a who. This is very true, Corrance. This is why you're the booking guy. Hey, by the way, Corrance, you haven't responded to coming on the air with us on Friday night as being a part of the SOR Roundtable. I have had requests for you. I didn't just put you on there as a joke, my friend. Who wants to see Corrance the booking guy on the Roundtable on Friday? That's why I put you in there. You are coming on, buddy. Yeah, you are. Yes, you are. Oh yeah, people wanna touch that mustache, bud. You've heard the round table before. Just give your opinion. That's it. That's all. Corrance the booking guy coming on the round table. How many assholes can fart in one elevator at one time? How many, Ad Gnome? Oh, you can do this show in your birthday suit. You go right ahead. As long as you got the mustache, that's all that matters. Still waiting for the end of that joke, Ad Gnome. Oh, you have somebody or someone turning off your game cams, Minister Elaine. Well, that's neat. Let's see. Gorgeous Marie says this. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson decided to go on a camping trip. After dinner and a bottle of wine, they lay down for the night and go to sleep. Some hours later, Holmes awoke and nudged his faithful friend. Watson, look up at the sky and tell me what you see. Watson replied, I see millions of stars. What does that tell you? Watson pondered for a minute. Astronomically, it tells me that there are millions of galaxies and potentially billions of planets. Astrologically, I observe that Saturn is in Leo. Horologically, I deduce that the time is approximately 3:15. Theologically, I can see that God is all-powerful and that we are small and insignificant. Meteorologically, I suspect that we will have a beautiful day tomorrow. What does it tell you, Holmes? Holmes was silent for a minute, then spoke. Watson, you idiot. Someone has stolen our tent. That's hilarious. That is hilarious. Well, everyone, I am going to call it the night because I have to go get firewood in the morning. I am going to get firewood, and I'll be honest with you, I'm a little tired. So, you guys have a wonderful night. We will reconvene at 9 p.m. tomorrow night Pacific, midnight Eastern, 1 a.m. in the Maritimes, 1:30 in Newfoundland, 10 p.m. Mountain Time, and 11 p.m. Central. And Alaska time, we'll meet at 8 p.m. Hawaii time, we will meet at 5 p.m. Yeah. So you guys have an amazing night. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for everyone who participated in the Super Chats. Remember, you could share this show from our YouTube channel on your social media. We really appreciate that. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Fun times tonight, everyone. Fun times. We all did well. We're all going to have a very, very easy and good night tonight because we had one hell of a show. And thanks to you for making it that way and so possible. Much love. Take care.